You are listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by a machinist. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Proteum Machining, and this week I am very happy to welcome back Chris Zappettini and Jason Peterson.
Hey, how you doing, Dylan? Glad to
Good.
be back.
Yeah, so which one of you guys wants to go first? Time to update.
Time to update. I got a ton of stuff to update, so because I haven't been on for a while. Chris is on a lot more than I am, so maybe Chris, you can give your little.
Yeah, when was the last? I think the last time I was on, it's like 2-3 weeks ago, something like that.
Like that.
So since then, I've been crazy busy. We did that show in at Selway in Union City. That was pretty rad. I got to do like a presentation on like automation and work holding and part density. That was pretty cool. I think they're going to give me the video so I can post it because they recorded it. And I mean, I met a lot of people. There was some people like Nick Hayes who came by, Jeff Tiedekin. Him and I presented like back to back. So that was nice. He
just a wild way to start.
It was,
the show.
yeah.
Just all of the energy.
Yeah.
Let's front load it right away.
And it ended up just being us talking too. Like nobody else wanted to talk. And I was like, yeah. And I kind of was a little disappointed I didn't get to go the second day. It just like didn't happen. But I think there's another show in Utah also for Selway next week. And I get to try again. So that should be better.
Welcome.
And yeah, since then came back and I was doing stuff for Kevin, the Solar Tools guy, on his robot. I did some stuff for Jason, like on the NTMX, nothing crazy. And then I made a bunch of fixture plates for a customer in Arizona and a customer in LA. And that was, Jason kind of saw that whole thing happen where I just like crushed myself.
I was concerned.
Yeah.
I was concerned. I kept on checking in like, dude, you're not driving all night, are you?
Yeah. And then I definitely did not do that. Wink, wink.
Yeah, of course not. You would never do that.
Never, ever, never. That's not me. But so, yeah, I worked from like 2 a.m. to 9 p.m. making these plates, and then I hopped in my car and drove away. And I got down to Arizona, and that's a Peterson project, and they didn't order the Peterson stuff. Their part, the bases, which was fun. It's like, tight. I'm glad I definitely just did this whole thing and like crushed myself for that. So then they ordered them, and they got there Monday, which was cool, so that I could like rush to get something on the machine and cut some parts, and then hop in my car again and then drive to LA where I'm at right now. And yeah.
I didn't even know LA. I thought you were still in Arizona.
No, I'm in LA. So yeah, I went to Arizona. I got that most of the way going, but because I ran out of time, I had some time scheduled for them, but then they weren't ready. So I did a little bit, and then had to go to LA to do this Matsura project, which Jason, I'll send you some pictures of that. That one's pretty fun. The part's kind of like, it's like a nothing part, you know? It looks pretty cool, but it's like plus or minus 10 on everything. And it's just they're like, oh, it's just a bracket. It's just a flapper, because this company makes refrigerators for jets. You know, they're like, do you want to tell Gulfstream that they're not getting their refrigerator? And you're like, oh man, what a problem.
Yeah.
But that was fun. Like, this was a good one, because like they were doing this part in 5 vertical operations, because it has like 5 sides of machining, and it was taking them, they would set up 2 machines, and it would take like 2.5 hours per part total to like get this thing going. And I was like, when I estimated it, I kind of left some meat in there, and it was like, that's probably like maybe an hour and a half part. And it's like 30 minutes first op, hour second op, because there's like a lot of surfacing. And it was like a 15-minute first op and like a 35-minute second op.
Nice.
And it's just like, and they're like, wow, that looks really good. And oh, cool. Like, we could probably get this part under 45 minutes. And they're like, no, it's fine. Yeah,
You've done your job.
Yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, it's already like so that'll give them about 8 hours of uninterrupted runtime off the one pallet. So that's cool. And then it's a PC-12. It's got 12 pallets, but we only set up one. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I'm like later, I got to go back to Arizona. I'll be in Arizona next week for a little bit. Then in Utah. Then I go to Pennsylvania to do some training. And then I think I have a week of like nothing, which I'm going to maybe fill up, maybe not. I'm not sure yet. And then I start my big turnkey in Delaware, which is 2 Nakamuras. And then once that's...
What are those machines? Are those WTs or WYs?
WT250 and a WT100. Yeah. Those parts are pretty fun, but not too crazy. But it got pushed a week, which is fine, which is good. Then I got a big turnkey in Arizona that starts in July, which is cool. So things are fucking happening, you know, finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
And
so real quick, going back to your Arizona Peterson fun stuff that happened and kind of in light of our past book club books and your recent Asana changes,
right?
Have you thought about implementing anything to kind of prevent that thing from happening in the future? Of like maybe like an automated email. Yeah. It's like, hey, here's the part that you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because we do have, the funny thing is like in the contract there is like your responsibilities, my responsibilities, blah blah blah. But one of the things I'm piloting right now with the Delaware turnkey is like kind of putting the customer into Asana and see if they like that. I mean, if they would like to give them tasks, that's tougher, but I can also have Asana email, like if they don't go in it and they don't want to join it, which is fine, I could assign them something that would then trigger an email to them, you know, which is like that's good enough. But it is like annoying that, like, you know, they gave me a bunch of money to do this, and then I show up and they're like, they knew I was coming. Like I was emailing her like all week, like, hey, I'm coming. And then I get there and she's like, you should have reminded me. Like, no. That's like, do your job, you know?
Yeah.
Like I did my job. If I showed up without plates, like be like, oh, I was supposed to make those, you know?
Well, and I'm sure it was exceptionally frustrating because you had worked yourself to death
trying
to get them done.
Yeah. Maybe that was like, I wasn't super frustrated. It was just like, this is, of course, you know, like this would be the thing that happens. And, but like Monday was a good day because like we broke down their machine. We got the Peterson pallets on, we routed the air, we got that going. And we had some like weird fusion issues where it was like taking way too big of a cut on one part and just fucking launching that thing. So I had to like fake it and add material to it. And that fixed it, quote unquote, but I feel it's a workaround and I gotta like dig in. I was supposed to send that to you, but
yeah, I'm still happy to take a look.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's something.
It still might be a bug, but I'm happy to take a look.
Right. Oh, and then I met Jay Pearson today. I went there and toured the facility, and like it was funny talking to him about, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this job in Arizona where they like ordered like this, and he's like, oh, I remember that, and then showed him the plates that we built, and I got to see like some of the stuff that they're working on and talk to him about like how he does things and whatever. It's pretty cool. It reminded me a lot of Freddy in that it's tiny. Like not tiny, it's just a lot smaller of an operation, like physically, than you would think for like the volume of product that they're producing and shipping. Cause like Freddy wasn't very big. Like it was impressively small, with the amount that they're like shipping out. And you're like, damn, all that in one building? That's crazy.
Yeah, because he's got quite a few machines from what I've seen in his videos.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the Doosan SMX, the B-axis Doosan, that thing is tiny. I thought it like...
Oh, really?
Yeah, in my mind, it's like, because the NTMX, which is like a similar machine, is fucking huge. It's like massive. It's like half the size of the NTMX. But yeah, dude, it's bitty. And I'm pretty sure it's like half the price too.
Oh, yeah.
But it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got to show him some stuff on the new Fanic side. I was like, because like, I don't like this. But I always show the thing that I show everybody that kind of gets them a little bit on board with the new Fanic, the IHMI is, and it's so silly, but when you're editing code, if you just highlight a line, like it recognizes, oh, this is an X, this is a Y, this is a Z. So you don't need to put the X or the Y or the Z or the F or the whatever. You just type in the number and hit alter and it knows it. So it's just to prevent you from like fat fingering. It's stupid, but it's helpful because like I've seen people crash machines that way,
Oh yeah.
I'll turn this Y into a Z and just sent it to like the center of the earth.
Yeah. The benefit though of your customers screwing up was we got to hang out on Saturday too, which was great.
That was fun.
You got to come down for lunch, which I was really happy about.
Yeah, and see the Hermlet dancing or dude, that thing. I'm like, I think, I don't know if I texted the group chat or if I texted you or like maybe I just kept it to myself because I didn't want Mickey to like jump down my throat. But it's like, I do have Heidenhain FOMO, I do want to, like, it's so fascinating and I really want to dive into it. I don't really have like a need for it other than like this would broaden my, like the scope of what we can offer. But it's like, it does look cool and it would be interesting. Like it just works, it just works. Like Fanic stuff, it doesn't work out of the box. Like base Fanic doesn't work very well with 5-axis shit. Like the Heidenhain is like purposely built for 5-axis shit. You have to like put like $30,000 worth of options into a Fanic control before you get like really sexy 5-axis motion. Or like the Heidenhain just works. I mean, like I've said on here for sure, and I say like all the time, which is like, it's so surprising that this control that's built for multi-axis CNC works really well doing multi-axis CNC.
Right, yeah.
Like
the purpose-built 5-axis control is really good at 5-axis. Shocker.
Yeah. And like, yeah. And because it also does the thing where like once the probe is in the spindle, no matter how you move it, it's like the skip signal's always active, like in handle jog and rapid and everything. So like, unless you crash the body, like it's protected. It's protecting itself always, which is like, damn, that's pretty dope.
Yeah. Yeah. And having the Heidenhain probing macros just kind of natively integrated into everything is really super nice. Like it's all touchscreen and it's not like a app like you see sometimes on like Akuma's or something where you like dive into the Renisha app. It's like, no, I just hit like touch probe. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm probing in Z. And it's like, yeah, cool. I got you. That
was the thing. Like, so I worked on 2 machines this week in LA, which was the Matsura, which I think was like it was set up by Selway, but like kind of not, like, cause it just worked funny. Like they changed the probing, like typically like you're talking about, like the probing Renisha is like G65, P9901, blah, blah, blah. But it was like 9905. And I was like, like, what is going on here? And I was talking to Mayette, and he was like, it's an H plus 400. Does that machine even exist? Like, and Mayette is the guy, And I was like, this would have been weird. In your territory. And yeah, it's just a very bizarre, it's just so weird. And then I was working on this fucking Toyota, like just now, for this company that makes like Harley parts. And like, there is no work offs. There's like, you look at the offset table, there's no offsets at all. Like it's empty. They store the offsets somewhere else. And so when the tool gets called in, it makes offset 1 the height offset of whatever that tool is. And so every tool you call height offset 1, which is like, what the fuck is this, dude? It's right.
I don't think I like that.
I hate it.
That makes me uncomfortable.
It makes me really uncomfortable. And because like it changed everything. They had all these weird, like they had a probing macro as a program in there, but the only way to like start a program, like it wouldn't start a program unless it was at home, like in Z and in the 4th, which is like fine, whatever. But they had a program that they're like, oh yeah, use this program to do probing. But then if you put the probe up to something, it's not at home anymore. So now it doesn't work. And then when I typed that code into MDI, this is before I realized the height offset thing is that like all my Z's were off by the height of the probe. So like last night, I think I worked till like 11 p.m. last night trying to help these guys out. And like my height offset, it like kind of was this weird perfect storm of the height offset was wrong because like off by like 7 inches. And I was calling the actual height offset of the tool, which was also 0. So it just like was an arbitrary amount off.
Right.
And I was so tired. I was like, what is going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And the guy that like their night shift operator doesn't know like anything about the machine at all. And he's just like, well, I think, well, in the program, there's G10 lines. And it's like, but this program's like from Harley. Like, there's no G10, like the program doesn't have that. And he's like, well, it's supposed to probe. Like, right. That's how you guys do it. But that's not what this is. And he's like, well, I think it's coming. He's just like talking at me like for like hours. And it was so the guy that I'm working with like warned me. He's like, he's a talky guy. He's a chatty guy. And I'm like, okay. And like, he wasn't kidding because he would start talking and I would walk away and he would keep talking, or he would start talking and he would walk away and keep talking, which I've never seen before, where he's just like, am I like, as if I'm supposed to follow him, but there was like nothing. He just never stopped talking no matter what he was doing. And I was like, are you talking to me? Like, I don't know what's happening here. But so
was this machine set up as a turnkey for them at some point?
No,
because that's the only reason I could see this weird stuff is like somebody set it up as like a dummy proof machine of like, oh, you know, it won't run unless it's super safe and blah blah blah. You only need to put in this height offset once and everything's good.
It's got like an FMS, you know, like the FASM system on 2 of these things. But I was like, this is one of those things where like I'm just doing these guys a favor. And I like, it's the whole triage of like, I have so many questions that I just cannot ask because like I'm making like basically no money doing this. I need to help them and get as far along as I possibly can. That's what I was doing before here. Is they're like, can you get this thing to run? And I'm like, and I finally figured it out. And like we were cutting, and then one tool, like where I kind of left off is like one tool needs to orient, but like we couldn't figure out, even the guy who's like the director of manufacturing, I'm like, we need to like flip the tool 180. And we were both like, I don't know how to take the tool out of the spindle. Like there's no button for it, or there's a button for it, but it wasn't working. And it's like, I have to go. I need to leave right now. And he's like, okay, we got everything going but that one, but like whatever, they can. He's like, it's close enough that now their guys, honestly, I don't know what they needed help with other than like editing the program. Like I just had a lot of hand editing to the program, like making every height offset 1, which is the weirdest thing in the world. T65 H1, like, oh God, makes you want to throw up. Yeah. Yeah. Nope. Like more or less is like, oh, I don't think I would ever, like if modern Toyotas are like that. No, thank you. Fuck that.
There's no way. Yeah. It's gotta be some,
it's like a 2015 machine with like a 31i control on it. You know, it's touchscreen.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing. It's like, it's touchscreen. And I'm like, what is this? It was so bizarre. And the guy, like, this is hilarious. The dude who was helping me last night touched the screen and did something. And I was like, oh, it's touchscreen. And he's like, I don't know.
You just touched it and it did something.
It's so funny.
I don't know.
He's like, I've never tried. And it's like, wait, you just did it.
Did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Oh, boy. Yeah, it was incredible. I was like, what is going on right now? And it got to a point where I was like, I am tired. I'm leaving. Like I need to wake up early and finish this project that I'm getting like paid to do. Yeah.
So can I ask, I mean,
please.
What gets you into that? Like, so you're doing a favor. Is it like a favor for a friend, or like how did that
It's
come
Connor.
about that you...
Connor Selway.
Oh, Connor. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
My guy. So
Yeah.
he's like, and so basically, like, this is one of those deals where I was like, I don't like, they gave me a lot of shit, and they're like a whole package of like so much information, like their customer, which I already said is Harley, like gave them all this information, like all the programs, because it was like basically done. Like this pallet was ran on a similar machine. It was just older. So they had like work offsets. It was funny. Like you could have, it was all the information you could possibly ask for, except for what the home location of each part was. Like that wasn't there. It gave you they had a spreadsheet with the machine coordinates, but like nothing that was like, and like a bomb of this like crazy hydraulic fixture, but nothing that was like, this is where XYZ0 is. And you're like, sick. This is so
nice.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm just like, look at the program. This is like where like knowing G code, like, well, most people don't get themselves into this situation, but like where you're like, so this drill that's this size seems like it's doing this feature, and that's like X0 Y of this. So that I guess that the big hole is the work offset, and I'm assuming it's the face of that. And so it was a correct guess, but it was just like,
I had to do that at my last job, like, because we had a bunch of programs that were either handwritten or written in Wildfire.
Beats the shit out. That's like,
that's the old Creo version.
Oh,
and it's like we didn't even have it.
That is
and so I would just copy the whole program into NC Viewer, just as ncviewer.com. I think Xander made it.
Yeah.
And just have it plot all the G code, and that way I was like, oh, okay, yeah, here's where the work coordinate is, here's roughly where the features are, here's the deepest thing, and then like I could go back and either reprogram it correctly or at least create some documentation, because sometimes it was like, this program's legitimately 35 years old. Like this is before I was alive, and somebody wrote this, and like I don't know what it does.
They are very efficient programs when they're written that way, because they're so memory limited. You're like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Efficient, and by efficient I don't mean like cutting efficient, I mean code efficient.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is like 30 lines.
Yeah, where they're just like, wow, there's like full slots everywhere.
Oh yeah, we used to have a ton of like custom tools.
Yeah.
They would like grind themselves, and it would do 4 or 5 features at once, and like like you said, super efficient.
Yeah,
would get it done, and then the tool would break though, and they'd be like, hey Dylan, you need to find this tool. I was like, what do you mean find this tool? This tool does not exist. This was like a homemade thing.
That's what these guys have, like a bunch of like custom, like essentially like when Harley like moonlights a product, they get the opportunity to bid it. Apparently, like they just give it to all these shops and they can like bid on the work. And then if you win it, Harley just gives you all the shit to do it. Like all the pallets, all the tools, all the programs, everything. Cause they're just never like, they'd still need the parts, but they don't want to do it anymore. Cause it goes down from like thousands, like hundreds of thousands to like 120 a year or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's not worth it to them. So they have like all these custom tools, and then they'll like look and be like, well, these inserts are custom. And then they'll like get them quoted. And it's like that insert's like $800 for like each, because they're so like, no matter how many you buy. And so they're like, well, we're replacing that tool immediately. Like, just forget it. But so how I got myself into it is Connor called me and he was like, these guys need some help. Can you help them? And I was like, sure. They sent me all this shit and I didn't know exactly what they were asking for. And I was like, I'm in LA, so you guys like pay for some of my travel or whatever, and I'll come by and see what we can do. And that's what I did.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know if I said that on here. I've been doing that a lot though. Where it's like, just pay for my travel and I'll come out. Like, depending on what it is, obviously. It's not like if it's like a full ass turnkey, it's like, yeah, just give me like a couple $100 and I'm like on my way. Yeah. But if it's something like helping my buddy out who works for Morris Group, I mentioned this on the podcast, like they had another guy that had worked on stuff, and then he hit me up and was like, "Hey, can you like help get this over the finish line?" And I was like, "Sure. I already need to be on the East Coast anyway. Just pay for my travel and I'll come and do it for like 2 days." And that was like a sweet deal. And like it's almost like getting paid in exposure a little bit, but it's that thing. It's like that fine line between like, because there's that whole thing about like when you give stuff away, like how do you value it? You know, like do you do like a $0 invoice, but that like shows everything that you would have done and like what it would have cost, and like there is some value to that. But I think that like this way, which is just like a few $100 or whatever, like $1,000 in like travel, is a little bit better, because then there's something like actually exchanged, and they have like real skin in the game. And that's also like a good way to like weed people out, because if they want to do a big project, but they're not willing to go like do this little bit to like see if we like interact, then it's probably never going to be a good fit anyway, you know?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And that also was Connor's idea. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about that?" And I'm like, "I actually really fucking love that. And I've been doing it a lot, and it's been very successful."
Yeah, it's marketing for you,
right?
Really.
Yeah, essentially, and especially like because it's just me. Like I don't necessarily need to pay myself anything. You know, what are you thinking, Jason?
Well, you're kind of getting paid for like an interview,
exactly.
You know, what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like,
yes,
you're getting a little money, and you're doing your thing, and they're finding out if there's a fit there.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually probably really good.
Yeah. So far, it's been pretty sweet. But I think that wraps up what I've been working on. And I got like a lot more shit going on. Like the big one is the month. I'm pretty excited for, like, I'm excited for the turnkey in Delaware, but I'm really excited for like the month-long turnkey in July in North Phoenix. That one will be cool. But yeah. Jason.
Yeah. Let's hear it, man. Because last time you were on, I think you were just about to go through a round of funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were trying to land a round of funding. We were, I think, when was that? In October-ish?
It was.
Like that?
It was end last week of September, because I was in Nevada. I just finished setting up Matsura right before I went to the UK.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and I said it on the podcast then, but basically we were, focusing on what the company's actually going to be. So what X2 Development Group's going to be going forward. So we were in the 4-hour episode that we did.
Oh, this one's going to be 5 hours, by the way.
Yeah. We set the path at that point, or sooner, maybe a month or so prior to me doing that podcast episode. So basically we transferred from trying to sell our own products and being a big manufacturer to focusing on what we're good at, which is, developing IP, and then R&D work, just have a small R&D manufacturing facility where we can turn those ideas into metal and then go shop those to bigger industry players in those areas that could, license the technology, or we could help them source the parts, and then they just, like an OEM, label them and do whatever they want with it. So when I was on the show last, I think we were just about to sign our first licensing deal with a company on our moderators technology, which is, it's in the airgun world. Moderator is what a suppressor is in the firearms world, but in the airgun world, it's not regulated or anything, and they call it a moderator. So we were using our technology from the suppressor side of things and applying it to an air moderator, and we got a couple patents in that, and we licensed that out to a company, and I don't even. They were called FX. FX is a major maker of air guns and they're based out of Sweden. So this wasn't FX proper. This was FX America or FX Outdoors. And what they were is just basically they were the stateside distributor for FX. So they weren't really kind of affiliated with FX, but not really. And so they loved our stuff and we're all over it. And so we did, like, I think it was like probably like a week after that last episode that we did actually sign the deal with them. And there was a considerable upfront amount that was in that deal, and it all looked good. And just the story of my freaking life, man. It was like seriously like 2 weeks later, they got shut down.
How much of this?
No.
So, how much of this can you talk about?
Yeah. I think it's fine. There's nothing, I'll be careful, but it'll be fine. So the guy that was running the distributor side of things over in the Americas that I did the deal with, the FX proper did own part of that distributor, like through like a, however the hell they had it working. And, the guy that actually owns FX, like Frederick Axelson, or I forget what his name is, started finding out that the guy that we did the deal with here, and not just our deal, but like he's been doing it for years and years and years, is basically was embezzling money out of the company and lying to FX, and like just had shell companies set up and all this craziness. And so FX proper obviously finally got wind of that or whatever, because that's what it was. FX Outdoors was trying to buy themselves away from FX. So FX had a portion of it, and so they were like, FX Outdoors, the guy that we did a deal with, was trying to make this his own company now at this point, I guess. And so he wanted to buy out FX's portion of their distributor company. And in doing that, that's when, FX proper had their lawyers like looking at the books and everything, and they're like, what is going on? So then they ended up shutting down their distributorship. And then of course, we got stuck in that, right? Like, FX proper didn't know anything about the deal, and they don't need to honor that deal or anything like that. And, so we, like, oh, sweet. We finally, did it. And then they didn't pay at that point yet, even the initial amount up front, because they're like, oh, we need 30 days because we're going through this transition of getting, buying out and blah, blah. I'm like, all right. Yeah. So, yeah, you can imagine. I'm just like, this is how it goes for us. Like, this is how it goes for me, man. Like, and those guys were that guy was such a piece of crap. I mean, I remember looking back on it, but like the first time we had a meeting with them, it was interesting. Like the first time we had a meeting with them, because they're like, he's one of those guys is like, supposedly like really religious and all this crap. And so like the first time we had like a group meeting where we're getting serious about signing this deal and everything, he like asked if he could say a prayer.
Oh wow.
In the thing, and they're like, yeah, and it was like, okay, like it was just
it sounds very performative. Knowing that how much of a
now, yeah, for sure.
He's the kind of guy that's like trying to run a mega church. That's why he's gonna turn FX Outdoors into like a cult or whatever.
Well, it's like that. It's like the Unrighteous Gemstones. Like seriously, I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. He's gonna, and when he shot a lot. And he started crying.
Get out here, nerd.
Yeah.
So that sucked. And at the same time, we were looking to bring another investor in, to bolster what we wanted to do on the R&D side, meaning that I wanted to bring in a certain amount of, because Dylan, you came up and saw, and that was, I think we just ordered the machinery at that point from doing the deal, but it didn't show up yet when you were there. So I wanted to round out what we were capable of doing in-house to bring all the IP that we have in the pipeline to, into metal and then, license it out. So we found it was interesting. So there's a shop in Vernal, Utah, which is on the border of, Utah and Colorado, basically. And it's mostly known for oil and gas stuff. And it's nowhere close to anything. Like from Salt Lake City to there, it's 3 hours and there's just nothing out there. However, there's huge oil and mining stuff out there. What I mean is, as far as like what we do, like precision machining, like it's just not there. It's, big ass old stuff, like the old shops that we used to be in is what's out there, because they're just like, grinding down, shafts for the drills that go in the ground, or when the teeth break off they're welding on new things, and it's very, I don't even have prints. It's just whatever welding
holes in the wall so that they can feed big ass parts into machines.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what they have. It's insane. But so it's a different world. It's still manufacturing. They're still doing something down there. At any rate, the guy that we brought on as a partner in the company now, he had his son-in-law owns a company there that does what I was just saying. Like they have these really big ass old manual lathes, and they, and welders and stuff. It's just that's what they do there. They maintain that equipment that people use to drill and stuff. So he, the guy that we're partnered with, his name's Phil. He's a great guy. He's in a part of his life where he's trying to make sure that his family's taken care of as best as he can, because he's getting older or whatever. And he wasn't necessarily into just investing in a new company. Like he was actually trying to divest out of he's in so many things. He was trying to divest out of a lot of things and kind of get ready to transition to,
baling hay full time.
Yeah, right. So he wasn't super interested in just investing in X2 as just like an X2 investment, right? Like, okay, I see what these guys are doing and I want to, get on board, and it's going to pay off dividends in, 10 years or whatever. But he was extremely interested in, can you, with your expertise, help my son-in-law build a facility in, a precision manufacturing facility, and can you, set that up and help us, do work? And along the lines of what I was talking about before, like we want to be in just an R&D facility, right? But there are going to be, and it has happened already, there's going to be, partners of ours that do not know how to manufacture either. Like they just white label crap, right? And so I'm going to need to, and what we offer them is like, we could help you source those things, set up those sourcings and give it to you. And along those lines, so it made good sense for us in what we're trying to do is, okay, well, Phil and his group in Vernal, he will, like, I'll come to him with a proposal of like, okay, Phil, if you buy this capital equipment, my group can come down, we'll set it up for you. And, and this is how much you'll get paid for it. And, just basically do that. So it helps us on our side of licensing out the tech, and it helps him fill up the shop with more work. so it's, theoretically a win-win-win. So how we started this is, we still make the ARX Light Fighter. We still sell our weapons. We still sell our muzzle brakes, our jackals and so forth. But I don't want to run production in my R&D facility. So I need to source my stuff out until I find somebody else to, hopefully license and take the ARX or whatever it may be. So, because we still have orders that come in, we still use it as a flagship thing that we, stand the company on, like, hey, we did this thing and we sell this thing and we can do, all of it. So it's good to still do that.
Badass too. Like that was it was so cool to see one in person when I went to your shop. I was like, oh man, I like the pictures. I think look really cool, but they don't do it justice of just how well the fit and finish is and having everything flow so well across the gun. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. I need to get you one. We'll get you one.
Just give him one of those displays too. Those are dope.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the displays, Dylan?
No, you didn't see it. It was
like so.
That was Christmas. So for the investors in the company,
so sick.
What I did for them for a Christmas gift. So what I did was took the ARX and cut it in half. So, and then we put it in a nice shadow box wood frame that Chuck made. It's freaking great. Like he's just good at everything, and a glass front. And basically, so you see both sides of the lower receiver and the upper receiver group because it's cut in half now. And then we did the same thing with the handguard and the barrels on top of there, and then the other parts around it. And we just laid it out on a piece of aluminum, that was anodized, and it had, it said ARX Light Fighter in the bottom right, I think, and the X2 logo. And yeah, it looks
so sick. It's so sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we did that. We did that for all the, I think, I did one for Ernie, Scott, Phil, Bruce, and Ron. That's basically the group that at some point put some sort of money into the company, or time.
Before you continue the story, where did you meet Phil? Like, how do you find an investor for something like this? Is he local to you? And then
No. So it is very much like anything else. It's a network of just people know people kind of deal. And one of our other investors, I think I talked about it before, Scott, who's just a great guy. He did business with Phil in the past, and he knew that Phil was interested in something. He didn't know what, and he just kind of just made the connection. And then I went from there and just met with him. We courted him probably for 3 or 4 months. Like, it's not like one of those, it never is, at least for me. It's never like a quick, you do the sales pitch and then they're like, okay, we're in. And then they sign like a week later. Like it's a really,
like I'd be suspect
when it's
anything
anytime it's
easily.
Anytime it's that fast. Yeah. You kind of want it to take a little bit of time because somebody's doing their due diligence, you would think. Cause when it happens quickly, you're like, oh, like sick. But then like, that's kind of how the QTR thing was, right? Where it's just like sight unseen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. You can.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. So then in episode, like it's like the fucking QTR deal that X2 had, that like they gave X2 like a shitload of money. It was like sight unseen, like way too good to be true, and that was a total fucking nightmare in the end, more or less.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, courted Phil for, and wanted, and again too, like he's putting significant amount of money into the company and to building this company down there. And I want to make sure that we can do it too. Right. And actually I'm not trying to take people's money. I'm trying to, make everybody successple.
Your story was, you have a ton of experience building shops. So like he came to the right person, if that was a through line of your story.
Yeah. And I did it again. So we built another shop down in Vernal. So they have this big facility there. And like I said, it was just, chips on the floor everywhere, just gross. Right. But he was only using like half of the building that he had. So, I went in there. I said, okay, well, we'll carve out this. So stepping back, saying that, the ARX, like I need to still make these parts, but I don't want to take up my machine time in my facility running, ARXs where I could be, developing new technology stuff. So, what we came up with is, okay, Phil, the first thing we'll do just to make sure this all works is you're going to start making our barrels. And so, what we're going to do is, we're going to pay you this month of money for a barrel. We're going to buy them from you from now on. And my grouper is going to come down. We're going to set up the entire facility down in your place in Vernal. We're going to show you guys how to run it, and we're going to manage it from, I'm going to manage it from my distance and get those guys up to speed and, get your son-in-law, up to speed. And then we have two more projects lined up. We haven't got there yet, but one is the VF18 muzzle brake that's on the end of the ARX that we sell as an accessory. That's going to go down there next once we hit it. We have it set up as once we hit certain thresholds as far as sales go. So once we hit a certain threshold of sales over a 3-month period is when we take it out of my shop and we move it down to that shop.
Nice.
And then he also gets the deal, first right of refusal on anything that, if we decide to, manufacture ourselves for, if there's reasons to do that, or if we, do a deal with somebody and they say they need someone for manufacturing, the first place that we kind of push them to is Phil, and where I'll do the, justifications on costs and whatever and say, okay, you got to buy these machines. This is what they're going to pay you for those, and do all that work. So that's kind of what, and he really liked that part. And then on the X2 side, obviously he got some equity in the company. And also on the X2 side is he bought the machines that I wanted for the R&D portion of what we're doing. And another thing too is, these wealthy people, they have huge tax burdens, right? And so Section 179 tax credits, they love it. And just, so what I ended up doing was, so down there they have a nice, I had him wall off and build in a whole nother building inside the building, all air, cause nothing was air conditioned. It was, swamp coolers and everything. And I'm like, no, this needs to be, perfect. And so they put in a nice facility, put all this, I did all the CAD work. We spec'd out the entire building and everything and all the power and all that good stuff. And then, so what he has down there now is 3 Haas TL1s and a VF4 with a fourth with, all the bells and whistles and so forth. And that's how we do that's how the barrel cell set up. So, one is doing the overall length and the muzzle end. The other one's doing the chamber side. The other one's doing the profile. And then we throw it in the fourth to do, if you look at one of our Trident barrels, there's very deep, heavy fluting in there. So we designed a steady rest that goes kind of like rubs on the gas journal. We mount the barrel extension portion into the fourth and then we have a royal tailstock on the other end that goes into the muzzle side, and we have adapters and all this stuff. And yeah, so, again, like I think we signed that deal with Phil in like late November, and I was just down there a couple of weeks ago. We finally, cause another thing I did too, because I don't want to have my guys down in Vernal, for weeks on end to set up machines and so forth. So what I did was I had all those machines dropped at my place in Boise first, and we turnkeyed it all there, got it going. And then I shipped it all down there. And then we were just down there for a week to, show them how to do it and stuff. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, maybe it was just me being bad at expectations. I wanted a lot more to be done by the end of the week. I wanted everything done. And what I mean by that is like everything documented, just I was using Obsidian. I still need to, like, this is the part I haven't done yet. I haven't done all the documentation part, the SOPs. That stuff is not done yet. I want to have in-process prints, just all that engineering kind of stuff. It's not done yet. So I need to go down there again in a week or so.
You want me to go down there next week? I can give you 1 day on site over there if you want it.
I don't think so, because I want to do all that stuff. And so I think what I'm going to do is get Chuck down there for a week, and I'll go down there for a few days and do all the paperwork stuff that I need to do or whatever. Another thing too is, like, I bought cabinets and everything, and I bought the 5S supplies. I don't know if you ever go there.com, and I bought all the shadow box or the foam, red and black foam. Yeah. Exactly. To lay everything
really
out.
Nice stuff. And I love the solar contrast stuff from them.
Yes. So, I still need to cut that stuff out. Like, we just didn't get it all done in time, and whatever. So still need to finish that up. But it's very nice. Like, I was actually pretty impressed with what we did, since, really the machines didn't show up in my facility till I think beginning of January, maybe. And, here we are, end of March, and I got it all going there. And, so my group did not, I shouldn't say I. So, that was good. It was a good learning experience. And so we're, rock and roll on that, just buttoning up, SOPs and all that stuff, which will help us inform our, next time we do this. So it's good. It's a new kind of thing for us, but yeah, build another shop in Vernal. And what I have now up here that I brought in with this deal, and another thing they have down there, is I bought a Zeiss Duramax, for their facility. They're not using it. You don't need it for barrels but, it's right now. I told them it's theater. It's quality theater right now. It's good to have the CM in your place, because I am trying to, get more work into their shop, just as third party work, nothing to do with us, but just, kind of start feeding them more from other people that I know need work done.
Right. And I mean, from what you just said, it sounds like that's probably the most accurate machine in a few 100-mile radius of them,
yeah, exactly. And there's big I know, like, there's Dead Air, doesn't make anything. They're a big suppressor company based in Heber, Utah, which is very close to Vernal. It's not very far away. And I know that, like, in the case of Dead Air, they farm out everything. And to have someone local that could make them stuff, because they got bitten by some supply problems by dealing with people like or companies in like Georgia or in Florida, and they got burned on that bad. So I think having, just a local shop for them, let's say, would be, good for, just as an example. But that being said, I know, like, if I go into a machine shop and I don't see quality equipment, that's a red flag. You're not getting my stuff, right? Like, it's one of those things you gotta have it,
Totally. Yeah.
So we got that there. We're not using it yet. I'm setting it up. And I got to get them trained and everything, but there's nothing in there yet that's being checked by the CMM. So now, going to my shop, what I got now from this deal is I bought a UMC 500, 5-axis, bought a VF2 with a fourth, and a CMM, and a Sodic wire. I bought the...
Oh, nice. You finally got a replacement for the
Replacement. So funny.
Yeah, hilarious. You're so funny.
Or not, I guess. Maybe I touched a nerve.
Yeah. So I bought new the Haas equipment and the Duramax. So I have a Duramax up here. It's same exact. Because my idea is I'm just going to set them up exactly the same way with the same stylus and everything. So that way, if I need to, I can remote in and put a camera on their Duramax, and I can do whatever I need to do from here. Or my group can, whatever. But I bought this Sodic used. So I found a really good deal on the Sodic wire, and I'm like, all right, I'll get it. And because I dealt with this company in Ohio in my previous lives, and I bought used equipment from them before, and it's been good. Like, it's been totally fine. So I bought the Sagami that we have. No, actually both Sagami. So the lathe and the Swiss, I purchased from, this company. I can't even think of the name of them. It's like, anyways.
This is bizarre, by the way. Total side note, but like one of the weirdest cool Swiss machines I've ever seen in my life.
Because it's got that full turret, so it's a little different. But yeah, it's super. It's nice, super capable. So the Sodic came. I think it's like a 2016 or something. It's not like super old or anything. It was just a good price, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's freaking had low hours, and I trusted where we were getting it. I saw what the shop it was coming out of, because they were just selling it on consignment. So I knew the shop because I'm from Ohio. So I knew the shop. I'm like, oh, that's a good shop. That's fine. Well, and it was fine. Like it until it got here. Somewhere along the way, because they did a video with me that cutting it was working and everything. But when it showed up here, it got damaged in delivery or something. And the entire lower arm broke, like way back in the machine. And it's like magnesium.
Oh, no.
So it's like a custom part that they don't really stock. So I'm waiting still for the, Sodic. I think it's soon now. I think they finally made it or whatever. I'm just waiting for it to show up and get installed. But I have a new Sodic wire sitting across from my old shitty Fanic wire that's not doing anything. Just waiting for it. But it's okay because I didn't need it, right?
Right, but still,
there's nothing that needed, but it sucks. Yeah, it's like
and it's always like it's super cool that all of those Japanese companies will make anything to order. It seems like if they have the prints, they'll make it for you. But it is very frustrating. Like when we bought the F600, it came and there was a bunch of different little things that were damaged when it showed up. But one of them was the bulkhead on the back of the machine where all the lube runs to the machine and all of the coolant runs into the machine. And it had snapped off in transport at some point. And of course, that's another one of those, like, they were like, oh yeah, this isn't a stock item. Like, your machine is like kind of a crazy bastard child anyway. So like, why would we stock this random piece of it? And they're like, we can get you. And I was like, well, yeah, you're gonna make it broken.
Yeah.
But it took 3 months, I think, 3 or 4 months for them to make it. And like, it's literally a flat sheet with like 3 or 4 ports that are threaded on both sides. And I'm like, yeah, cool. All right. Like, I understand, obviously it's not a priority, but man, it's so frustrating when you're just like, all right, yeah, sure.
And it's even more frustrating because like we can make things, right? Like we know how to make things, but this part I actually cannot make.
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh yeah.
And that's the one that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Just get a chunk of magnesium and give it to Nate. He'll figure it out, man.
He probably would.
Yeah, he would.
And
he wouldn't.
That's for sure.
He wouldn't say anything the whole time. It would just be done.
It would just be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, we got a nice R&D facility. I'm pretty happy with how that is going. And then now we're just we came up with our plan as far as what IP we're going to bring into market. What are we going to work on with the resources that we have? Because I don't want to grow the team any bigger. I don't want to, necessarily do any of that stuff to try to do like 5 things at once. Let's just, one after the other. And okay, well, what makes sense based on the the cash flow of the company and what we think we could sell quick and what is complex to make, what is not complex to make, and just doing all those, doing all the calculus to figure out, okay. And so we came up with a roadmap of what we, the order of projects that we're going to work on for the year. So,
well, then let's get into that, because Shane, Focus for Life, and Corbett, Gator 300, asked upcoming projects, next big thing from X2. So is there anything you can share?
Yeah. So yeah, I can share a good amount, I think. So yeah, Shane's great. Shane just had a birthday actually, and his wife Terry got a hold of me like a month ago or whatever and said, hey, we make a custom ARX for Shane, custom Cerakote color that Shane wanted and everything. And Shane's birthday was just last week, and we got it there just in time. And look, she's like, wife of the year. It's pretty freaking cool. It's on his
it looks dope. It's like
it's on his Instagram, Focus for Life.
Matches,
because he has a Focus ST, the Ford Focus ST, which is Tangerine Scream. And he wanted the gun to match that color, so that's what we did. So yeah,
that's so awesome. Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now on his Instagram. That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's cool. And then Corbett is a great guy too. So Corbett is SWAT commander, I believe, in a Louisiana sheriff's office thing or whatever. And he's a huge proponent of our suppressor tech, and he's been a fan of ours and a fan of Ernie's for a while. So to answer answer their questions, and just, what we're working on next is, so going back to that bad moderator deal, with FX that fell apart, we actually redid a deal on the moderator with another company actually up here called, it's Idaho Air Guns, but they formed a new company, and they're like a distributor company, and they bought the rights to sell the moderator, exclusive rights. In that deal, though, again, it's like going back to what we're saying, is they don't know how to manufacture anything. So what we're doing is I'm sourcing everything. It's getting shipped to my Boise facility, and then we're going to assemble it and then package it and then send it to him, and then he sells them. So we did, good thing is, we did get the moderator out as our first licensing deal. And we did bring in a portion of money up front on that deal, and it's going good. Actually, it's going really good. So
awesome.
That's good. So that one's gone, or, on its way. The next one that we had on the list was an optic mount. So we designed an optics mount for, Picatinny rail engagement. And the idea, Ernie's, the patents behind it. So we have two patents, and we have a continuation being filed right now. So we already have a patent granted on it, a patent pending, and then a continuation coming. And that's on what we call the wedge lock, QD wedge lock. And what that is basically on the pick rail, like you got the slots, right? Like, and in there we built a thing that spreads to whatever the width of that pick slot is to take up any movement, as far as if you think of the sight moving down or back and forth, like with recoil or whatever. So that locks that in. Then also looking at the spec, and a lot of people, I don't know, but like the spec for the Picatinny rail, the original spec, it's supposed to grab on the top of the pick and then only grab on the bottom angles of the side of the pick. It's not supposed to, and what everybody does is just squeeze. Like they just squeeze in the side. So they're using the V on both sides of the pick, and they're just grabbing it that way. So you don't really get, no one's mounts are designed right to the pick spec. And then on top of it, that's where you don't get repeatability when you take a scope on or off and so forth. So what I did, and I added in, was instead of using just like a straight, key cutter to do those, what everybody else does, I actually made a a formed key cutter and had it made to where it's radiused on the bottom part where it's supposed to engage. And then I cleared out more on the top part so it'll never touch the top V. So it's only going to squeeze the bottom V where it's supposed to. And then, and then that means it has to pull down on the top and it has to be exactly how it's supposed to be. So we put that in there. Then we also made it incredibly modular, meaning that you can switch out the rings. There's a diving board thing that Chris can jump in here too, because Chris redesigned this to make it look sexier, basically, because we are one of the things that, you know, we did learn, and that's why we have this R&D facility, is you can go to people with ideas and say, this is the idea. And, you know, if you put money behind it, we'll make that idea come true.
It's not enough.
And they're like, well, and it's just not enough. They want it in metal. They want to test it, especially big companies like Leupold or, you know, what have you.
This is what you were showing me when I was there, right?
Yeah, that was the
surface plate.
Yep. That was the first original. And, I'll send you pictures or whatever if you want to add it to the show notes, or
sure.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So, and then another thing that Chris and I did was we designed basically a compound. How would you say it? Like
it's
compound key
it's a
path?
Tapered dovetail.
Tapered dovetail.
So the piece, there's the base that mounts to the top of the rail, and that has the wedge lock and shit in it, and then the rings go on with like a tapered dovetail so that they self-center and wedge in, and then they're in line. Because the original design was pretty good, but it was just like very flimsy, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't sturdy enough.
And it, like, even if, I mean, and to that point of bringing people like half-baked ideas and saying, if you like give us money, like, it's all about at the end of the day, it's all about perception, you know, like seeing these, like, it had a really cool idea, but when you looked at it, whether it worked or not, it looked weak, you know? And if it did work, it just would have been like, now you're trying to like sell somebody on your idea before you sell them on your product. And like, you've kind of already lost by then. So we beefed it up, used some of the parts that like were already in house to do like cool, like little swivel deal. So the ring like flips open, added like some screws and like just cuts and whatever else. And, we worked on separated some stuff, like separated the locks so that it wasn't like this weird game of like, oh, one of my favorite features of it, is because it's like technically toolless once you put all the tools on it. Once you like put the scope in it, you know, then it's like, right. Once it's like together, it's toolless. So you use a torque wrench, you get it torqued down, and then there's indicator marks on the knobs for the torque that like locks it in. So once you have it torqued, you know what that is and how that feels. So now you can do it by hand, to get to that same point every single time. Right.
So we have this cool little detent thing behind, like, so the screw that you tighten down the pick rail to, right? That's locking it down. We have on those knobs, we have numbers 1 through 10 or 9 or 0 through 9. I don't know what it is. But at any rate, yeah. And then that lines up to the base at a certain point. So whenever you turn that knob and you finally get it to where you like it's supposed to be a certain inch pounds, but people like to have whatever they want to have, you know? So once you get it there, it'll be lined up on, like, let's say 7. And so that way, next time, you know that when you take the thing off, you go to 7, you're going to be, if you got that right, you got that wedge lock working, and we've proven it now. We've done testing and everything. You take that scope mount off with the scope in it, but like you take the whole thing off, put it back on, you're dead nuts back. You don't need to re-zero or nothing. And then the modularity of the design with the wedge, what did you call it, Chris? The
tapered dovetail.
What were you saying?
Yeah. So you can take the rings off, put new rings on, and they self-center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we did the same thing, modified version on the side of the scope rings, and that is where you can slide accessories into. So you can put a bubble level on, or you can put a red dot, at a 45, or, so incredibly, you can set it up. It's kind of like a little Lego set on an optics mount. Like you can do whatever you want. Made a diving board that has the entire, all the, like an RMR and all those red dot patterns. We have a pick rail, dug. So, and here's the thing that's interesting, and we're still learning, is how much do we need to do to sell the thing, but not do too much to where, like, we're not trying to make a full-fledged product, right? We're trying to make something that we can bring to, the powers that be, to have them make a decision. Because and Chris ran into this on the moderator.
I redesigned.
We can make the thing
like 10 fucking times and redid prints like over and over and over again. It was insane.
Well, I'm just talking about so when we were courting the guy, Joe, the person that we're partnered with now on the moderator, right? And Chris had, and I told Chris, I'm like, we just need to make it look better. Like, can we make it look cooler or whatever? And Chris did this thing where, like, he took put the X of the X2, like our logo, all over the outside of the can.
It looked dope.
And then he redid the cap, and it looked really good. I show it to Joe.
It's not supposed to be an X2 part.
No, but Joe wanted it
to be bland.
He wanted to have, well, no, well, Joe wanted, the X's were fine. Joe didn't care about that.
Okay.
He just didn't like how it looked. He liked the old design.
Yeah.
So we just went back to the old,
which was like,
Chris,
oh man.
So from that, and so what I'm saying is, like, now we're doing the thing of, like, we're bringing things in the metal to sell the IP, right? To show what the vision is in some sort of concrete way, and to show them that we can make it whatever you want. Like, this is just, the sky's the limit here. We're showing you that obviously we can make this thing. We can make it look however you want to make it look. We can make whatever accessories you want to make it look. And then just trying to thread that needle of how much do we really need to have done. And, not wasting my engineering resources. So where we came out of
selling the license and the idea, you're not selling a turnkey product. That's just like, slap your logo on the box and we can ship it out for you, kind of thing.
Some people might want that, but they're still going to want to have their design input. Maybe, like, they're like, well, I want this to say Leupold here, or I want this to say, or I want this to look like this, or we need to have this accessory, can you make that? So it's just, doing enough to show that we're capable and that it works, and, the fundamentals are there, and then let that partner dictate, or partners dictate, what they want in their version of that,
Mm-hmm.
So what does the design cycle look like for these? Like, how long did the moderator take from initial concept to maybe your first deal with it?
The moderator is a little different because it was built off of our suppressor tech that we already developed, I guess you would say. I mean, there's I don't know, Chris, I would say, like the optic mount, we showed it at first at SHOT Show. Yeah. So that was mid-January. And now we're at, like, a full done product now, as far as we don't need to go back.
The optic mount, like, it depends on how you look at it. 'Cause, like, David had done something, enough to get the patent, and then for me to take it to the next level took like another week or so,
Yeah, I guess so. The way that we go about it right now, and we can put some time to, because that's a good question. I just really haven't, depends. But so the way that we go about it is, Ernie comes up with idea in the middle of the night, and he's like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Sure. Bananas most of the time.
Yeah. And so then he tells me, he'll talk to me for 17 hours about this new thing or whatever. And I'm glazed over. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'll set up a meeting with David, who's our SolidWorks guy, the engineer, the part-time engineer. He has a day job, but he helps us. We pay him hourly. And David's like I said before, David's very good at interpreting what Ernie's saying and turning it into something that, in the CAD, that at least is 80% there. And then Chris and I will, take it from there, kind of deal. And so that's how it works. So I'll set up a meeting. We'll talk about it for, an hour or two or whatever. And David will understand what Ernie's saying. Then usually what I do is I say, okay, David, how long, it's usually a weekend thing. And so, okay, so let's do a review of that design with just Ernie, me, and David to make sure that whatever David's showing, there's no like major problems from my point of view, and that it's doing what Ernie wanted it to do, And so when we'll do that, and he's like, okay, it's good. So then I will either, if there is some major things that I feel like, David, let's just change this, and this, or whatever, he'll do those. And then from that point, when he's like, okay, I'm done with that, which is like another week, let's say, I will then go over it myself and kind of just wrap my head around it. And then depending on what it is, then that's when I usually bring in Chris, and then Chris and I will go over that design, and he has his inputs, and then and also Chuck, and we'll just kind of, go over that and how we're going to tackle that. From there, then, Chris will do his thing if he needs to do, whatever he needs to do to get it to where, not that the prints and everything are done final, but like the models are good. We have the basic, like what the critical dimensions are, what we need to hit. And then we give that off to Chuck, and he'll start ordering the tooling and getting it programmed and getting in the machines and start making the things.
Yeah.
And then the feedback loop then is it'll come back. The first iteration will get done. We'll do some testing, and we don't like this. We don't like that. And then Chris, at that point, then usually I just have, like on this one, I just had Chris go back in and change it all, get it to, what the changes I wanted to make or whatever. And then, then we make it again. And then at this point, like on the moderator, we don't really have, we do have prints because
there's prints for everything.
We need to, I need to review the prints.
Right.
And because in this deal with the optics, we have, a few different suitors that are super excited about it and want to see it in metal, which was like next week. But we don't know what. One of them is a manufacturer, so they might just license it and make it themselves, and we don't do nothing there. The other one, though, they're going to just want to buy it from us. Again, kind of like the moderator thing. So I'm going to have to source everything in. We can assemble it and then ship it out to them for selling, which is fine. So we do need to have prints because I need to get quotes and stuff like that. So at this point now, where we're at is, we're going to have we have 20 finished ones that we can give out for T&E and different companies. And another thing that I did over since the last time we talked, I hired this guy named Jeremiah Alexander. He came from Right On Optics and built that company as far as sales and marketing goes. And he's also hell of a shot. Like he's the guy that took our ARX and hit targets at a mile. So like, it's insane. He's just tremendous. He's a great guy. So brought him on, and I'm not saying anything bad in it, but like brought him on in a significant way as far as money and then the potential upside, like the deal I did with him. And I try to do this with people that could actually, really change the company. I'm trying to incentivize him. So we have a deal like where, he sells stuff, he gets a portion of that sale, like it's not just, he's not just gets a salary kind of guy. He's like, if he performs on these different projects, he's getting compensated for that for so many years on whatever that thing is.
That's killer. I mean, that's the way to make people care as much as you do about your company.
Exactly. That's exactly. So bringing him in, and so he's been leading up that whole side of things because obviously I sucked at it anyways, and so I let him kind of dictate how he wants to handle the different things as far as getting it out there. So like, is he trying to does he think the play for this technology is exclusive, license it off, or is it a non-exclusive? We let anybody do, and we just make different versions for everybody, and we do it that way. And so on the optic mount, I know the way he's looking at it is, it's going to be a non-exclusive. So, some people might license it and make it themselves in house. Some people will have to make it for them and ship it out for them, and so in this particular project, I need to get costing and so forth and have that all set up. So we know, like, when someone asks, like, okay, well, how much is this thing going to cost or whatever?
So 2 questions.
Yeah.
First, do you have like a rough target then how many projects you want to go through the shop per year? Like one a quarter or something like that? Or
yeah, I have a list for this year. I have 6 projects that I would like to, get done. However, it's always changing because Ernie's always coming with something new. And sometimes I try to keep to it as best as we can. But if is something that he comes up with, this is like, we should do that now, and I'm like, and we agree. It's like, okay, well, we need to bump this up. But in general, I'm trying to get 6 projects done. So the optic mount's next, and we're basically done with that one. The one after that is, it was our new reverse flow suppressor technology. However, it doesn't, so I think that the technology is great. And there's not much more we need to do to really, because we already 3D printed some of them way back prior and tested them out and then found out what was wrong and then fixed it in design. And we need to do another round of making them just to test it. So it's, we're a little further along, but we put it on the brakes just because in that one, we have so many patents in the suppressor tech, and then there's some other things going on of people violating those patents that we feel that we engaged our lawyers on. So I think the play there is just licensing off the tech, right? And there's no one like hot and heavy on our suppressor tech. Over the last few months, I've had meetings with the owner of Dead Air, the founder and owner of Silencer Co. And they know everything we have, and it just kind of went cold, I guess. I don't know. It's just there's not a lot of interest on that side, even though it's very valuable. We feel it's just so it doesn't make sense for me to spend engineering resources, because here's the thing, the big project we want to work on for next year. So that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set up some base hits is what I call them, as far as making us cash flow positive, putting us on a good path. And then I want to take on a big engineering project. The big engineering project for hopefully 2025 is the 8K. So we have a full-on 8K design that Ernie really wants to get out. And again, like David has the original CAD designs done, like we did it like a year ago or something, but it's been sitting there and nothing else has been done to it. I never really even looked at it in depth or anything yet. I just know that we have that there. Everybody that we talk to and the feedback we've gotten independently of, because sometimes if you just talk to Ernie, it's like an echo chamber, like everything is great. Mm-hmm. But talking to a lot of people in the industry, like this is something cool. But obviously you can imagine like an AK, especially the way that, if you can imagine how the ARX is, the AKX is what we call it internally right now, is just as different from an AK as an AK is. And so there's a lot of work in there and a lot of engineering work. And I don't want to do the thing where Chris and I are, what we did with the RX and just 3 to 6 months or whatever.
Iterating on the fly constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to clear out time to do that big project, because that's probably going to be a year project.
Okay.
Honestly.
I like that. Yeah. I've got a metaphor. I think I'm stealing it from Neil at Discommon, but like you were saying, base hits. I've always referred to him with Brad as our squirrel customers and our elephant customers, because the squirrels are the small ones, but they get you your nut. The elephants are the big ones that you chase.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bigger nuts.
So it's nice to hear another metaphor for that, though.
So that's basically. I like yours better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just poorly paraphrasing Neil, but I heard that once on I think a live he did or something. I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna stick. That's a good one.
Yeah. So we got the optic mount, we got the suppressors. That's where I'm thinking I'm going to move that down. Bringing Jeremiah on. Another thing that we're doing is we're actually going to be coming out with a red dot. So Jeremiah's got connections. Obviously, we don't know anything about glass and reticles, but he does, and he knows where to get that stuff. And we're going to put our spin on the housing for it and so forth. So the red dot will be right behind there, and that's an easier one because we're just designing some stuff to it. We're not actually. There's not a lot to it for us to do, at least, So that one's good. We're putting that one in there. And then, barrels. So going back to the barrels, we're going to start selling that as an accessory, as its own thing. And this is already, obviously it's already done. Like we just did it. I guess I should have thrown up there earlier, but that's what we did in Vernal. And so Vernal's not just going to make the barrels for our guns, because we don't really sell that many. And the idea is what we have in Lost Chris, huh?
Yeah, I think so. He'll pop back in. There he is.
Yeah, there he is. So
that was bizarre.
Yeah. The capacity of that cell down there on just a 10 hour 80% utilization on a 40 to 45 hour work week schedule is roughly 500 barrels. And so I want to fill up that capacity as fast as possible. So we're going to start selling our Trident barrel as its own thing for the market. Anybody can buy and put in their gun. Because a linchpin of the accuracy of our ARX is the barrel and how we go about that. So we do definitely think and we've heard it, like we brought our gun into shops to, have them, when we first were trying to sell the thing, we would bring them into dealers and so forth, and they would love it. But we're a higher end costly gun, and a lot of dealers, not all of them, but a lot of dealers are like parts, and they maybe have a gunsmith and they put guns together for people and stuff. So they're like, oh, but can we buy the barrel, or can we get the barrel? And I'm like, I don't know. We just put it in our gun. Now with our gun though, we use a 936 gas journal on our Trident barrel. That's big beefy boy. And that works with our gun and our handguard and stuff. But a lot of, the majority of the market is 750 gas journal, so that way you can put a low profile gas block in there, and, you don't, what handguard, you get a lot more choices there. Right. So, but we never did ours with a 750 gas journal. And what does that do? So we just did a whole bunch of testing and everything. And then also what are we going to offer? So, Jeremiah has been working, and we hired a marketing firm to work with us on this. So we're redesigning the website and moving it over from WooCommerce to this thing called BigCommerce. And obviously there's, I'm spending money on making this thing go, but we're going to be selling a 16-inch, a 14.5, and a 12.5 version of the Trident barrel with a 750 gas journal. And that's what we're going to start with a Wildy chamber. And then we're going to branch out from there. But at any rate, so we got that going too. So we're, doing that.
Killer. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then after that, Chris has made a half of a prototype so far. So our linear trigger. So if you think like a 1911 trigger, how it's, smooth pullback, and in Glocks and anything else, you got like, in an AR or anything where it rotates on the pin, right? And so depending on where you put your finger on the trigger, if you put it low or high, it's a different amount to pull that trigger. And the gold standard in trigger feel is a 1911, right? And so Ernie, again, we got patents on it and stuff. Basically, we're making a drop-in linear trigger for an AR.
Cool.
And
that's really
Chris started working on that. I wanted to have like a basic prototype for SHOT Show, and Chris just it was just like one of those like if it happens it happens kind of things. But
yeah,
and he got like half of it.
Yeah, halfway. I got the
housing.
What the hell did I get done? Yeah, I got the housing done, and I 3D printed the trigger, and I think I made like the sear, or something out of stainless. And so like it was half 3D printed, half done, half metal, but it was not super hot. Like I think the like it quote unquote functions. The biggest thing is the springs need to be
well
designed.
To me the springs, and it's going to be that ramp angle on both sides of what it activates. But it's all stuff that we need, that we can work on. So anyways, that's one there that I think's we're a fairly small amount of engineering resources and cost compared to that. It could really, there's companies out there that would, again, would be very interested in that. So that's on the list. Then we also Ernie came up with, and this one's a lot more complicated, but it actually might jump the linear trigger because it's a offshoot of that. It's basically a linear trigger for a Glock. And how do you fit that in a drop in for a Glock? Because, like, for who it is, who just came out with like I think it was Timney or whatever, their extreme Glock trigger or some crap or whatever. And it's just the same old stuff. There's nothing really new to it. And Ernie and David designed, a linear trigger that would fit in a Glock. Now I haven't gone through it yet. I don't know enough about Glocks and how this thing goes together. And so Chris and I need to go through it, but conceptually it's there. It looks like it's going to work. Yeah. David thinks it's going to work. And obviously if you're looking at, total addressable market, Glock triggers
huge.
It's huge. So
massive.
But, I'm doing the dance of, there's a lot of engineering work there. There's a lot of testing. You don't want to screw up a trigger. That's how your company goes to dies. So,
right.
So I'm still weighing that one, like if we're going to try to fit that one in. So and
my
then
other
there's
question,
a blowback system, and anyways.
My other question that came up when you first were talking about the optics, it sounds to me like a potential roadblock for you guys in the near future then is going to be assembly and how quickly you can ramp up and hire people for assembly and really dial in an assembly process. So have you done any research into that and like the tools and things that you want to bring on and systems so that you can, if you're white labeling 3 base hits back to back and you're having to create all of this stuff and assemble all of this stuff, are you ready? And if not, what are you thinking about there?
Yeah. So it's been really good. So like I have it set up really nice, I think, in the back as far as the ARX goes, because we build it all there. So we have what I call the grocery store. So we have rows that lead up to the benches of, you go shopping for the parts that you need to make your build, and you go to the table and you build the thing, and then it goes down to the next stage, and it's way out. And from my time at Lincoln, that's what I did. I did a lot of that, of process flow and understanding. And then also I have a great lady that runs my assembly and everything. Amy, she's just freaking phenomenal. And she's very good at documenting everything and like, it's amazing. And so I feel very confident that if it like goes gangbusters really quick and I just needed to bring people in to assemble, like Amy got it, like she can train those people and I won't have to worry about it. And then we can go in and, put the SOPs and everything to it, to how I want this to flow. But, another thing that I'm concerned about, and like what you're saying is, my customer, if I am the middleman in some of these deals, right, I'm going to have to make sure I'm the one that's taken up, making sure there's inventory, right? So there's cash flow constraints that I'm a little bit concerned about. I don't want to take on too many. So I got to manage that too, is even though we can bring on another OEM, but that means I need to carry this much inventory. And that means that the turn, like let's say I have net 30 terms, but they're not paying for net 60. And I got to manage that cash flow. So that's kind of more of what I'm a little more concerned about. I'm not, maybe I'm just being naive, but I'm pretty confident that, that if it's not set up, that it will get set up fairly quickly on that stuff. Chris, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in there or something. Or yes.
No, I was just like, one of the things I saw today was at Peterson was 3 printed build trays for their assemblies. Mm-hmm. So they have like just trays that they put all the shit on. And then like, if there's something left over, then you fucked up. But like things have a spot and you can see what it visually see, which is cool. And just generally was gonna alley-oop that Amy is the best.
Yeah,
like
awesome.
She totally rips. It's crazy. Like she's so efficient, I guess. Like she just
it's
does.
not even just efficient, like because we're all efficient, but then she's very good at like dotting the T's and crossing the I's, like like what it's like it's amazing. Like how the hell's that?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, like on. Before I left, I was like, hey, I need to like pack these up. Like, what do you think? And she's like, just leave them, And then she just packed up my plates in boxes. And I was like, and did a really, really good job, like super fast. And I was like, oh, damn, what a baller.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I mean, and then I hired I hired her prior to last time we met, but Stacy, and she's running all my compliance stuff, right? Because I have that facility down in Utah still, and then I have a facility up here, and I don't want to go to jail. I'm the one that goes to jail. I'm the one on the thing. So I need someone that I can trust to do the compliance stuff and be very good about that. So she does all that for me and audits up here, and she works closely with Amy. And then another thing that Stacey's really good at, and she brought into the company, is Smart Sheets, which is,
it's like Asana.
It's like Asana. Yeah, kind of. It's more like a super powerful Excel with database kind of thing built in, whatever.
Pretty dope.
It's great. And she's very good at it. Like she's got all like now she's got it to where like we have project open, and then she has it going into Slack so we get updates.
Yeah. The Slack integration is dope. Like I'm not even in it, but just seeing like that the tasks are going, like a task is assigned to a project and it just pops up in the right channel in Slack is like, that is so hot. Like,
and then she's built me dashboards like every week. Like, so before she got on board, let's just say it's just like these little things of friction in my job. Right. And so, when I go to do payroll every 2 weeks, I need to look at the calendar because I have everybody put in their time off. If they want paid time off or whatever, it's in the calendar in a shared calendar. So that's how I was doing it. Like I just had the guys put in, they wanted 8 hours PTO that day or whatever. And so then when I'm doing payroll, I got to go look at the calendar for the last 2 weeks and say, okay, it looks like, whatever. And it's not like it takes forever, but I still got to do it. Right. And then, I don't really care because I trust my guys that I have, but like, I actually don't even know like how many hours they have left of PTO or, I mean, I have no idea. So in Smartsheet, she built dashboards. So I have a dashboard for me and I can look at it. I can see sales. I can see time off for the last 2 weeks of whoever took. So I could just look at that really quick and say, oh, it's 8 hours Chuck, 7 hours her. And then in QuickBooks, I just drop it in. I don't have to go look at a calendar and try to do math. It's just all there. And then another thing was keeping track of like reimbursements for like if, someone bought something and I needed to reimburse them. And I would have to go through my emails and try to figure out, okay, or just ask everybody like, hey, do I owe you money or something? Like, I'm not sure. Excuse me. So again, it's now in there. Like everybody, you fill out a thing in Smart Sheets and then it's on my dashboard that I need to reimburse this person this much money this time. And then I clear it out and then it's gone. It's just like those little things. And and then just adding in more things, like she's doing all the inventory now. So she's basically building like a small ERP. So I told her what I wanted to set up the safety stock to and stuff. And now it's like alerting us like, oh, you're below 20 on this part, and before it was, oh, we don't have any of these parts. We got to order those,
Are you doing the inventory in Smartsheets, or is that?
He's building it right now.
Okay. It's not an Airtable or anything?
Nope.
Oh,
see, that's what's more. Yeah. Smartsheets is more of an Airtable. It's not really Asana. It's more Airtable.
Yeah.
But she's just very good at it. Like I was using Airtable prior, and I was good at it, but I was the one doing it all. So in this case, she's like, well, Smartsheets I'm more comfortable with. And that's what she did at her last job at Integrated. I'm like, whatever, we'll switch to that. And that's what we're using. She's been great. Like just taking those little things away. And then she's building the SOP. Like, so I gave her the format of what I want the SOPs to look like. And so she's been making SOPs for all the compliance stuff and how she wants things done and whatever. And then I have her start doing some of ours, like part numbering and stuff. So I don't know. It's been really, really good to have a dashboard I can look at and say, okay, there's sales. This is how much is we need, that we brought in year over year, like on Artemis sales or on Jackal sales. It's all there, like by month. And it's just all one nice little thing. And then she even has it in the, like where I have the shop schedule built in. So like what we're going to put on the machines in what order, like parts, which Chuck manages now, but I can look at it and say, oh, okay, that's where that is on that machine. And it's all right there on the dashboard. It's freaking phenomenal. So, that's been great. So anyway, so been building that out in the shop, trying to get some, just like what I said, just trying to get a couple more base hits. So that way we have money coming in that I don't have to really, have enough money coming in where I don't really have to worry about, that. And then we can take on a big engineering project, which I want it to be the AKX. So that's kind of it. That's what we got going on. I mean, there's plenty of other stuff. I mean, Ernie just texted me yesterday about freaking some lever action shit he wants to do.
He's always talking about something.
Yeah. I mean, there's a blade blowback.
He's so good. Yeah. He's so good at like just coming up with ideas. I remember like going into a meeting. I think it was the Glock Trigger meeting or some meeting that you and I were in. And
I think it was the Glock Trigger because I wanted him to go with you.
Right. And like, we're talking about it. And like, he does like a magic trick where all of a sudden, like, you're just engaged in this other conversation. And it's like, wait, what the fuck is going on right now? Is this still the same topic? And he's like, no. And then just keeps going. You're like, okay.
Yeah. We were meeting on the Glock Trigger and then he started talking about the next thing. I forget what it was.
Slowly, this pistol comes up, and he's like, and he's playing with it. The best thing about Ernie on these meetings is he has a super fancy webcam that like does tracking, but it doesn't work right. So it's just like he'll like put his hands up and it's just like all of a sudden like zooming in on his face and then it's moving out and then he'll go like this and it's tracking over and so he's moving all over the place. It is hilarious. But all that to say, that dude I've never seen, he's like a machine with coming up with gun IP. It's kind of insane, truly.
Yeah. So I mean we have so many things and we get more patent, like we got another couple more patents approved last week on some other things. And it's just picking what we're going to do. So it's compared to where we came from and where I was a year ago to where we are now, even though we're not like,
not flush.
We're not flush.
Nobody's.
Yeah, no one is. But I mean, we're in a good way right now, which I'm very happy about. And it really comes down to just having I really do feel like it really came down to just saying, okay, this is what we're good at and this is what we're going to focus on and don't get any distractions. And that's
pumpkin plant, baby.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
It's been stressful as all hell, but it's been good.
Yeah. Jason and I had a conversation I think 2 weeks ago, is right before I left.
Yeah, it was
for
by my
Arizona.
Yeah, we're sitting around my dining room table, I think.
Yeah. And I was I was in a fugue state, pretty much, just working like a madman. But we started talking about it kind of ties into the Jeremiah thing with people caring, and also just managing the how to manage kind of ebb and flow of work. Because right now X2 is very busy, but it wasn't very busy for a long time. And that trigger, it's not like people can just ramp, and just all of a sudden become very productive. That's it. I'm saying this too, because that happened with me just now. And so I went from having almost no work to having a lot of work. And then in terms of systems, all of a sudden I'm working like a fucking madman because I'm by myself, So it's I'm just crushing myself and the whole time management aspect of it.
And I think that the thing that, and we were having that conversation, the thing I was trying to, or what we're talking about is we do that, right? Chris and I and you, Dylan, or people that are shareholders in whatever they're working on, that really care about whatever they're working on. They can turn it up and down incredibly quick because it is so important to them, right? It's them.
Our life.
It's
literally our life.
It's literally our life. Now, when you get to employees and so forth, it's not, and what I was telling Chris, it's not even fair for person that doesn't own that doesn't have the same values as you. Just because they work for you, they don't need to replicate you, right? Mm-hmm. However, how do you get that? There's got to be incentivize them in a way to get that if you need it, right? And and have them ramp up and understand that, this is incredibly important, and that, it's not one of those things it didn't work out, I'll just try again tomorrow. It's no, we got to just,
it's we have to, all night. We have to exhaust all options right now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And I think a big problem with it is that everyone is not motivated the same either. We're motivated by our businesses because there are businesses. It is maybe not life and death, but it is our everything.
Close.
It's how we function. But with an employee, if let's say you implement profit share, some people just aren't financially motivated. They're totally fine just cruising, and they don't care. And some people need constant praise. Some people need somebody, a buddy to hang out with. It's so hard to just come up with I think what's really hard, at least for me thinking about it, is that as a company you want to create standards for everyone, but it's very hard to tailor motivation things as a standard because people are so different.
Yeah, that's, exactly. And it's just, and what I think it comes down to and what led me to this, just thinking about it, and Chris and I talking about it, is maybe you can't do nothing about that. It's just a thing that you need to take in consideration in planning, is what I was trying to, what I'm thinking is,
right.
You need to be better at planning, because you can't rely on people to care as much as you. And so when you need a Herculean effort of 3 people for a week, and you can't clone yourself, and you can't, and it's not fair to expect that out of anybody else, I don't think either. I think you got to plan better, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to,
It gets to expectation management, but not it's an interesting one, because a lot of the time we talk about expectation management, or at least I do, in terms of managing my customers' expectations. But in this case, it would be expectation management of yourself for your employees, which is where you get into the planning thing, because you're okay, I can work 12 to 14 hours a day or 16 or 18 or whatever, like, that many hours a day, which you don't want to all the time. But sometimes these things can't be avoided. Or like that kind of goes into the planning thing. And if you just know that my guy and like these people are going to they're going to give me 8 hours, but those 8 hours are going to be good, but it's only going to be 8 hours. So like I can't plan for them to do, if I'm planning to do 12 and we need 12, then maybe we start like 4 days earlier. And that's how we get that time. Like you're saying, like the planning aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that sucks, but then that becomes then you like flip the expectation management to your customer at that point, which is like, okay, it's going to take 2 weeks. I could do this in 1 week, but if I had 3 of me, I could do this in 1 week, but I don't have 3 of me. So it's going to be one of me going crazy. And instead of this taking 3 weeks, it's going to take 2, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things, and going back to like what Stacy's doing in Smart Sheets and building out these projects, one of the things that we're doing in there is, and this is how I don't know if people need to hear this, but like when you're doing a project where you're assigning tasks to people that need to do things that are, if you're part of a bigger group, what I do is I let those people pick their dates. So they say it's going to take them 3 days and they're going to be done on this day. Right. And instead of dictating to them, you let them pick the dates that they say, and then you work around that. And, and if it's something that's way that's just going to screw up your project or something, that you say, okay, well, how can we get this faster, and engage them that way. So what we're doing in that's how we're going to do projects in general. And then in Smart Sheets, what I have Stacy doing is keeping track of what we said and what we actually did. So we can go back over so many projects, and it's not to call anybody out or anything like that. It's just to be able to next time when you're doing, because we're going to be doing very similar things on just different projects, right? Like they're similar tasks, similar things are going to have to be done. So let's say, just in general, like, and I'm not throwing him out, but let's just say Michael says that it's going to take him 3 days to do the UPC codes, just some task, right? And then it actually took 6 days. Right. And then over 3 or 4 projects, it's always taking, Michael's always, in general. So if you look at Michael, so we can just look at Michael and what he's
found dead in a ditch.
Yeah, I know. And you could say like, okay, here's all the tasks that Michael's done over the last year in the projects. And this is what he said it would take. And this is what it actually took. And so Michael, let's just say Michael's a super optimist. And so he's always like 100% off. So like whatever he says, like if it's a week, it's usually 2 weeks. So that way it helps him get informed for the next time. Say, you know what, I need to double whatever I think I need to double, because that's just how I am. And then maybe like Nate might be like one of those guys that puts down a week and he's done in a day because he's just, or Amy. And then you can look at that and say, okay, Amy, it only takes you a day to do this. Like you always put down 7 days, but really you probably cut it in half or whatever. So I think that in the long run, hopefully that'll, benefit the group as far as, again, going back to what we're saying, like helping me manage the expectations of the project and when it actually will be done and when we need to start working on things, prior to, to where I'm not having dinner with, a guy that only slept 3 hours in the last week around my dinner table, and both of us have an existential crisis about how we need people to care more about us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Side note, I don't know if it's this way with you guys, but like you're talking about, us three and other business owners being able to quickly like spin up a lot of work or work capacity on our side. But I don't know about you guys, but when I do that, I find that the days following that effort are always like the least productive. Like it dips far below the median average for my productivity. Like this whole week, the last 2 weeks, Brad and I have been working our asses off and like had more work than we ever expected. And then this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think I got maybe 25% of the stuff done that I actually wanted to get done, because I was just like so out of it and just like, ugh, I don't want to be here.
Chris and I talk about it, and it's definitely a burnout thing. So like I can give that effort for a certain amount of time, right? And then I need to, what I've been doing. So like, I know that's happening now. Like we're all aware of it. Right. And so what I try to do is, again, going back to like managing expectations of myself, is like, okay, dude, you just went hard. Like I was just when I was down in Vernal for a week, I mean, it was rough, and just hours, just spending hours and hours doing work. And I knew when I got back up home, like there's stuff I always got to do, like, right. But it's picking the things to do then that are, low. It's like a matrix. It's, it's, how I have my task set up in my personal task manager is like high effort. The difference between effort and then actual like, length is different things, right? So this is like a task I have it set up as like less than 5 minutes or less than 20 minutes or less than 30 minutes or whatever. And so then I can sort by those tasks and say, okay, these tasks are less than 30 minutes and they don't require a lot of thinking. I'm going to knock these out today because I don't have it in me to keep on doing, even though, I know I went hard these last 2 weeks, and then I really need to I want to get these 10 things done, and they seem really important. But if you just don't have the capacity, like you got to just be real with yourself and say, okay, what can I get done now? There's always more to do, but let's just pick the right things to do. Right.
Yeah.
So it's picking the things that are easier to do, but still need to be done, but they're not going to tax you the same way that the thing that you just did 2 weeks ago straight taxed you. Right. So that's kind of like how I try to do it. Trying.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to do it though. Like it's definitely better than trying to force yourself to do high level stuff and just like failing.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly like why, New Year's resolutions don't work. Like you got to be realistic with, what you really can and cannot do. And what you have the ability to do at that time, and know thyself, like know what, okay, I can go hard for 2 weeks. Like I can't even do that. I think a week is my max now. Like I can go really hard for a week, but I can't do it for 2 weeks. And I know after that week that I'm going to have to still got to do worky work, but it could be the work that I pick that's less of a strain on my brain, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Let's see. We got a few more questions. Shane had also asked us to dig into what we consider the levels of a machinist to be. He really feels that those lines are blurry, and curious what a top level CNC machinist looks like.
I think the traditional thing is like you got a button pusher, you got a setup guy, you got a guy that can, run production. Then you got the guy that can program, a programmer, right? And I do believe, Shane, like it does, except for the button pusher, I think it does get blurry, especially with the tools that are available to us now, right? I think like Fusion 360 is a huge thing there, because I mean, you couldn't really program unless you had $12,000 freaking seat of something, right? So so now you can have your machinist, even if they're not even, you're not relying on them to program, but you can give them a seat of Fusion and let them screw around and, do stuff like that. So,
and then you hit on someone like Nate who just like does it all,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even Shane the same way. Like Shane, is very good machinist, very good problem solver. The only thing that he's missing, he's working on, is just the programming part. He just never given the time on the job to do that, right? And that's one of the things that's weird I get it. It's like, how do you get to the next level in a company where, you got to show them, kind of like what I'm doing with, like, I got to make the things in metal before I get the person to buy it. And unfortunately, I think it's the same way for machining and machinists in this generation. Like, you're going to have to take your own time and own resources maybe, and it's going to benefit you either in that job or another job, but you got to be the one that is the person doing the stuff, right? You can't go to your company, I don't think, and say, well, give me a shot at this, because they got their own, they're trying to do whatever that company's trying to do, right? And it's not, and it might be what your function of that job and what the company looks at it is maybe like, pumping out parts or whatever it may be. And now you're asking for the company to pay you to learn something that will benefit the company and benefit you, but you're taking away a resource that they have you positioned at in looking at it from a big company standpoint, like, Lincoln or whatever. So I do believe, like, if you're machinists out there and you're in a job and you really want more opportunities, I guess, to become a programmer or, whatever it may be, you may have to do that outside of that job on your own personal time and on your own personal dime, but it's going to pay off. It's
just gotta be aggressive.
You got to do it. But as far as going back to, got a little bit of a tangent there, but those lines are definitely blurry, I think, once you get past button pusher. I don't know what you guys think, but that's definitely the thing there.
I think they're blurry, and they're not going to ever. They're never going to be hard to find lines most of the time. And I think, especially now, as we progress further in the industry, and fusion becomes so readily available and just keeps getting better and better. You see,
and the manpower is not there either, so you need people to do a lot more than just one thing, right?
Like having I'm a machinist level 3 or whatever. Those kind of companies are just going away.
Well, I think that's just BS to pay people less than they might be
exactly,
actually.
That's what it is,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, you're a 2, not a 3, so you get $10 less an hour, and it's like, yeah, but what's the actual difference? Like maybe 5 years of tenure, but skill wise, maybe nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
And so, there's just always going to be a need for people, and everyone likes to see I could get to this level and then this level and then this level. But I mean, you look at guys like James Servin, he's 21, owns a shop, right? Him and his brother's 26, and they just do everything. Literally everything, and they have done everything for years. And I think they worked in a shop for 5 seconds, or something like that, and then they were like, I could do this. I mean, they've had good success. But if I run into people all the time that are like, how do I do XYZ? And it's never a satisfying answer to hear just do it, how do I learn to program? It's start programming.
Yeah.
That's
I always refer people to the Titan stuff. It's regardless of how you feel about the guy, he has an entire class online. You can go through 8-10 parts, learn how to program them, learn how to cat them up. If you have access to machine, you can actually machine them and have all these parts that you've made. Do it. And I think really, for me, the lines that matter are less the levels of machinist and more of just the have and have nots of motivation. Going back to what we were just talking about, I'd much rather hire a button pusher with zero experience in setup or programming who is asking questions nonstop and clearly wants to learn this stuff than some programmer who's well, I'm a top level. If anybody ever says I'm a top level machinist and doesn't qualify it as
I'm the best in the West, baby.
Right. Exactly. It's that there's a problem there. I the second I saw, I'm curious about what a top level CNC machinist would look like. It's I am too. I don't know. I feel like I don't know anybody who's at a very high level that is done baking or feels like they're done cooking yet,
Right.
like we're all learning, we're all asking questions, we're all making mistakes.
There were moments where I'm like, dang, I am pretty good at this. And then other moments where it's like, I suck. Like I am just like, this is just like when I like on that
week by week for me.
Exactly. Like on that Toyota, which is a Fanuc controlled machine, which is like, that's my bread and butter. And like just encountering this like unicorn of a machine that's just a horizontal, but it's doing things in like this weird way. I'm like, I'm lost, and I like sometimes like it's like I feel like I'm pretty good at this sometimes, and I was just working on another horizontal making parts, like actually cutting, and now I'm like just trying to like get an offset and it's not working. And you're like, what is happening? There's no, I don't know, there's no such thing as top level machinists. Like, I mean, there is, but like if like to Dylan's point, whatever, it's like if you're going around saying like I'm the best, like no one actually thinks that,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right. If you have to tell somebody, then you're not that good, like
right, yeah.
Like,
well, some people like I don't know, and just it's what I always say, like people like, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I make things out of metal.
Right. Yeah. I help people make stuff. I do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And like, if they want follow-up questions, like if there's follow-up questions, then maybe I'll get into it. But yeah, it's like, I just help people make stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Goose Chase Cycles asked us, do any of y'all miss just running manual machines and not doing all this CAD CAM stuff?
Yeah. And it's a hard answer. Fuck no. Also, I've never really ran manual machines, and I have zero desire to really run manual machines.
I actually do. Like, so going back to like what we were talking, right. What we were talking about earlier, just a little bit ago, Dylan, is like, that's one of those things like where if I have a hard week of programming and doing investor stuff or whatever, to go out to a manual, like we got a Bridgeport, we haven't hooked it up yet, we're waiting for the electrician to come out. Like if I can just go out there and just, I don't know, machine something, like I don't know, like that actually seems very okay for me.
I'm
like,
just thinking about the scene in Armageddon, that movie where like there's just like a random scene of like a 12-inch fly cutter going across a piece of like square tubing. I just imagine you out there just making sparks just because you're like, these are the days.
No, I would agree though with you, Jason.
Just taking the Indicall or whatever and putting it in the spindle and just making sure the device is square or something.
Right.
No, like something like.
I like it as a novelty is maybe not the right word, but like I enjoy it as a hobby. There's no way I would ever enjoy it as a business owner. Ever.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, no, I need to make money when I'm at work, but like for a personal project, like we've got a little manual lathe, and I love when I get a chance to like turn something and it's low stress and I don't really care. And like, oh, cool, I made this spacer for my car or something, like something stupid.
Right.
But like, that's a very divorced feeling from running manual machines to make money. Like there's no way I would ever feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
The closest thing like I'll get to is running my Matsura that doesn't have probing. That feels manual enough.
Yeah. I think it's like setting up a manual. Like what he's saying, like the CAD CAM, like if I needed to cut a compound angle with a side mill, like you got to take the vise, you're going to have to figure out like, if you're using a 5-inch sign plate or something, and you got to like tilt it a certain way, and just doing that work, I guess. And then that work you're doing in your brain, but you're actually doing it with your hands at the same time. Like, I don't know.
It's like building Legos or something.
Yeah.
Like it's a very similar meditative feel, I think.
Right. But yeah, Chris is too young to.
I hardly ever worked on them, so I'm like, no, thank you. It's just not something that I'm like. There's never really a point where I'm like, God, I wish I could go turn some dials right now. Like, no, that's just not. It's just not for me. And I will say that obviously very confidently. Like, it's okay.
Totally.
That's good.
Yeah. I think we've gone over all the shop news and new things, unless you got anything else, either of you guys.
Oh, well, I mean, one more thing is, so the moderator cores is a,
oh yes,
it's a carbon fiber and filled additive thing. And there's a print farm in Idaho that I had them quoted and make them, and I was really interested in trying out the bamboo, so I bought one for the shop, and I printed out the moderator core just to see like if I could do it. And the bamboo is awesome. And so now from that, and we're going to do testing on Monday just to make sure it's performing the way I want it to perform. But as long as it passed Monday, I'm about to buy 4 of them, and we're just going to print them ourselves. I'm going to have like a little freaking bamboo print farm in the office printing out the moderators for our customer. So, yeah, that's been fun screwing with the bamboo and trying different materials I've been getting in.
Did you try the TPU?
I haven't done the TPU yet. And actually, Chuck brought up a good point, because I'm like, yeah, I want to try some of the TPU, but I'm like, but you got on the bamboo, I bought the one with the AMS, so it has the switches between the different filaments. But on the TPU, which is a 95 durometer, real like rubbery crap, you can't put it through the AMS. You got to run it just on the spool and put it in. And I didn't look to see how to unhook the AMS and everything and how to put the TPU in. But then Chuck's like, well, just use the Prusa and put it in the Prusa, and you don't have to. I'm like, so I'm going to try that.
Nice.
Just to see how it prints, you know. But yeah, and then I'm looking at aluminum 3D printing, and it looks like, is there something similar to like 6 series aluminum 3D printing? So I've been kind of just I've been reading about that, and it seems like what's out there is like a comparable to like a 3 series aluminum, which for my application that I was thinking about, it's not going to work. So anyways, but then I saw that some company partnered with Ford, and that they patented some technology where they can do 6 series equivalent aluminum additive manufacturing of some sort. So anyways,
that's cool. Yeah, it's so funny to me that like metal 3D printing, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it logically, but there's so much more experience in printing things like a high-end, 17.4 and Inconel and stuff like that, because they went after that right away. And then things like aluminum just kind of fell by the wayside. And I mean, and granted, there's all the other safety concerns with like powdered aluminum, even more so than some other metals. But yeah, I always found it funny that, you could go get a quote for a 3D printed metal thing, and it might be even cheaper out of something like Inconel than it would be out of aluminum.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. Like, one more thing I'm looking at is, and I think because the application for the aluminum is for a suppressor thing, and so it has to handle heat to a certain extent. So that's why the 3 series, and it has to have some rigidity to it, and not just get, because of the combustion, all the things blowing up in there are just going to eat it away really quick. Looking at it, maybe, and they can 3D print it peak. So I'm actually thinking of maybe printing or having there's a place, just a print farm where I can just have them make it out of peak and see how that goes. And then you can buy it. Like I got a quote from some miner, RV miner, or some company that makes
Vision Miner, I think it is.
Vision Miner. Yes.
Yeah. They make the glue that I use all the time for 3D printing.
Oh, really? So they make 3D printer that's specifically designed for a peak and those similar materials. And I got a quote. It's only like, but it's like $12,000 or $13,000. But if it works for my application, it would be awesome. So, And then also, if you go to I was on their website. If you go to their site, they have, if you look, they got like a Haas, a couple other machines that they put their freaking 3D printer in. And so they have an additive and a subtractive machine. It looks like Frankenstein as hell, but if you go to their website, you'll see it. Like it's crazy. You can tell it's like it's a VF2, but it has this freaking extruder thing coming out the side. And so they build it on the table, I guess. And then it moves out of the way or something. And then it's a milling machine. It's crazy.
Oh, cool.
That's
awesome.
I wonder if they do like what the Lumex does. And so you like, it like lays down a little bit and then you can machine a little bit, then it lays down a little bit, then it machine a little bit. So you can get really high finish on internal cavities that way, because you're essentially milling in like every like X amount of microns of a layer. Mm-hmm. So you get these like crazy internal geometry that's like, but it's like machined inside, where normally like if you just straight up 3D print it, like it just is what it is. Yeah.
That's interesting too, because that would be, I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more, but anyways, just kind of spending more time in that I'm really excited to see, hopefully. I don't see why not. Like we're using the same film and stuff the print farms we're using, and we're using the same resolution and everything. So they should perform just fine. And if they do, then I'll be buying 3 or 4 more bamboos Monday night.
Awesome. Chris, anything new on your end?
I'm not as broke right now. That's pretty new. It's pretty weird, but like
that's a good thing.
Yeah. No, just like just getting a ton of work and looking into like just kind of going into like diving a little bit into like Asana stuff, like trying to get more like dialed in, prevent this issue that happened mostly on my end of like time management and making sure that like I can get everything done appropriately. But like I think I texted you, I'm working myself into a bit of a problem where like in like a good way, where it's people are like, oh, well, this project worked, we want you to do another one. And it's like, well, I'm fucking booked. Like, so I don't know exactly know how that's going to work, but, which is like cool. 'Cause like I know that the market demand is there or whatever, but that just means like, I'll probably look at hiring somebody, or like, I know Jason and I are probably going to have like we've talked about like doing stuff together, like, I don't know exactly how that would work, but my biggest need really is like having somebody make stuff cause like I can make stuff, but if I'm making stuff that I'm not doing something else, and I have the machine, which is nice, and it does make all my projects go way easier, because I just like show up with fixtures and slap them on.
But you're the one that has to do it.
But I'm the one that has to make it right now. And so I don't know, like I think about, well, if I was going to hire somebody, I probably wouldn't go down, now that I have the machine, I probably wouldn't do the same thing where it's like I'm trying to hire somebody to do what I'm doing. It would be like hiring somebody to like run a machine and maybe do like programming and design work in Idaho and like just be stationary. But then like I'm inside of Jason's facility, so there's probably something we could work out there depending on how things go or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So we can talk about that more and maybe figure something out. But again, same thing as you is like busy. My resources, like we're busy. Like, like my resources are, Chuck and Nate and Justin are busy as shit, and Pete are busy as shit, right? So.
Yeah, and I have to do it with Kevin too, which I love Kevin, but it's just like, it's just a wrinkle where I'm like, fuck this. I get like random calls where it's like the robot's slower than I was expecting. And it's like, damn it, Kevin.
Is it still running all night? Yeah, but I thought I was going to be a little longer.
We just did a 30-hour run the other, recently, which is cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did it was like 3 weeks worth of work in like 30 hours, which is dope.
Cool.
Yeah. But other than that, nothing new. I've been thinking about getting probing on my machine again, now that I'm like, it's actually like kind of within reach. And in terms of kind of jumping into the researching portion of it, I think I'm going to get a new refrigerator for my house in Massachusetts. And I've been looking into that, and a dishwasher. So the dishwasher leaks, and my brother's ex-girlfriend ruined my refrigerator by just like leaving a lot of food in there, and it got gross. So like the air circulation aspect of it just stinks. And dude, it's gross. And the refrigerator is also as old as I am. So it's 1989 vintage. So it's time. I will say it's fully depreciated. And like now that it's gross, it's like, you're get it the fuck out of there.
What are you doing?
Nothing new really. Just keeping my head down. Like I said, we've been much busier than we expected. Like we knew that we'd maintain being busy in the new shop, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if we're getting a little faster and able to put more jobs through the shop or what, but like it's right on the edge of being uncomfortable as busy as we are. So
yeah.
Well, that's good though, because I mean, you were down for a while with the move and everything, and obviously your expenses were probably through the roof at that moment. So it's
I would be more quick. It was this last week or two
more stressed out if you didn't have any work.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Like I think again, I say this many times on the podcast. It's a very good problem to have. I shouldn't be complaining, but it's still very stressful. But yeah, like the last 2 or 3 weeks, like the move finally caught up with us, and we were waiting on getting paid from all the work that we did right after we opened the shop, and like, you know, just watching the savings kind of start dip. And I was like, this is uncomfortable. And like, you know, it was all good. Like we knew it was going to be fine because we had shipped so much work in like the first 3 weeks that we were open in the new shop. But yeah, it was surprising how much money we burned through in the move, and, you know, getting on our feet in the new shop for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right. Well, then that brings me to, so I've added a third question, and we'll see how it goes. But first up, what did you research this week? Doesn't have to be machining related. What's been popping up in your guys' browsers?
Refrigerators and one of the things, and then this one, I just Googled it just to like, because it reminded me of some of the conversation. And I just like, I think I've talked about it on here. I'm not sure, but Parkinson's Law. Have you heard of that? Have we talked about that? I think you and I had talked about it, Jason, which is the observation that the duration of a task will expand to fill the allotted time of a task. You know,
you were telling me, so you didn't remember the name of it. You're like, I forget what it's called, but it's
so it's Parkinson's Law is the name of it. And so that's where like you get into this dangerous game of like, oh well, like I used to think about this. It will take me this much time, and it will take you that much time or more. So like you get like, if you say it's going to take 3 days, but you know it's going to take 6, it's kind of better to keep it at 3. Because like if it takes 6, then it might take 9 kind of thing. And it's just you know, in terms of like time management, like I know for myself that if it's going to be, if I say I'm going to be 3 hours, then, or if I know I'm going to be 3 hours, I'll probably say I'm going to be 1, because then it'll be 3. But if I say 3, it's probably going to be like 4 or 5. And Jason knows this. And you're like, oh yeah, I got this. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you know, things happen and whatever else. So I think about that a lot, really, where it's like, well, how much time is this going to take? Oh, I can get it done in a week. And like, even if it's like a 1-day task, you just give yourself a week, and then it takes a week. It's pretty fascinating.
That's great.
Yeah.
Things I've been researching. I mean, I touched on it earlier, just all the 3D printing stuff. I'm trying to see what we can do. But that brings me to, maybe you guys know this already. I did not know this thing existed, and it's wonderful. It's very hard to find any good websites anymore that I actually think are nice. So anyways, it's called wevolver.com. You guys ever hear this?
Sounds super familiar.
So it's wevolver. So wevolver.com. And it's like a engineering blog thing, kind of.
Oh, I feel like
I don't know, but
seen
it's
some
great.
articles on here from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I've been just bumping through here and reading, like, they have like technical guides on like black anodizing. They have one on like how to master G code, which I haven't read yet because I want to see how bad it is or, good it is or whatever. But
yeah.
Because that way, then I can gauge on things I don't know. If there's something I know and I read it, and I'm like, okay, that was good. And then I go read something about something I don't know, then I can trust it that it's, fairly good information. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been kind of just spending some time on here. Like there was one I just read and was pretty good with like on RA, like on everything you need to know about
surface roughness. Finishes. Yeah. I just pulled that one up. I was looking down the list.
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, there's that. So
I like that.
I didn't know if that was something that, I don't know. I just stumbled across it when I was doing some search on 3D printing stuff. I'm like, oh, this site's cool. And it's no like ads anywhere. It's just nice. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
This is cool.
It is pretty. It's really awesome.
I'll have to read through some of these for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
cool. Good call,
that's
Jason.
it for me,
good
really.
call.
Yeah. Very good call.
I like to bring something to the table when I show up.
Yeah. Not your stomach, that's for sure.
Oh, hey, not your mom, that's for sure.
This week I was researching networking our machines, especially the Herm ones. I had to get that online.
Oh, and you did?
And I did. Yeah. It's super cool.
Nice.
Like, you want to talk about feeling like a futuristic machine?
Yeah.
Being able to remote in and see the screen of the machine and change.
Really?
You can do everything
it's
besides cycle start on it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So
why is he bricked? Yeah.
Dude, that'd be so good for like how I'm doing like the shop down in Vernal, like instead of
right.
That would be so
yeah, just replace the Haas control with a Heidenhain control. And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I did
on the TL1.
I did know a guy who put the Heidenhain control on one of the early Haas bubble mills.
Really?
Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That was crazy.
The other thing that I'm not really researching, we kind of know what we want, but I think we're going to buy a second compressor sometime soon here.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we should have talked about my compressor woes. Jeez, oh man. My compressor died and I only have one compressor. So the shop was down.
So you know exactly why I'm buying a second. Yeah.
Yes. And
my compressor was there. It kind of worked.
Kind of worked. And so we were running off of his a little bit, but then luckily the guy that came to fix it, this guy's awesome. Chuck found him, he does air compressor stuff, and he had an extra like 20 horse or something. So he just dropped it in line and we ran off of that because we had to wait like 2 weeks for the new part and he's like, and that's what I'm probably going to do. Going back to what you were just saying, Dylan, is like, he's like, well, I'll sell you this one for like, it was a good price, like $6,000 or whatever. And then I'll have two now because I cannot be down. Like I cannot be down, and I can't imagine if I'm doing production like you're doing, you can't be down.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing is I did the math and I was like, so a day of downtime is worth this. I was like, it's, the return on investment is less than a week of like being down versus buying another $7,000 compressor or whatever. And it'll probably be cheaper this time because I don't need a second tank. I just need the second compressor itself.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's bound to happen here pretty soon, and we'll just run them lead lag or schedule them on different days or something like that. But yeah, it's one of those shop owner worries that keeps me up at night of like, what if I go in tomorrow and the compressor just doesn't turn on? Like
that's what happened to us.
Super screwed. Yeah, exactly. Like right. you know exactly. You've lived this now.
Yeah,
it's kind of terrifying. So.
It was bad. So anyways, luckily we had good support up here that got it fixed quick, but I'm like, this is not happening again. We're buying another one. I'm probably going to buy that guy's because it was a good price.
Yeah, might as well.
What were you saying, Jason? Oh, hold on. I think you were saying something, Jason, about networking the Haas's in Vernal, I think.
No, I said it would be nice to have like those controls down in Vernal, like what he's the Heinlein. Like I'm just thinking like machines going forward. If I have to buy something and I can get that kind of thing, that's probably something I should think about just to make my guys' life easier up here that are supporting down there. Maybe I don't. It just depends on what it is too.
This is the X2 Kern origin story right here.
Could be.
Yeah. You won't be unhappy with a Hermla. I tell you what. Very happy with ours so far.
Yeah.
It's a killer.
I've never got to touch one or see one in person, and listening to your show and listening to other stuff, it's like I really want to play with one of those.
Well, anytime you're in Tucson, come on by. All right, guys. Second question. What things are you working on to be a better person, leader, employer, what have you? None of us are perfect. What are you guys working on?
Same thing. Like what we were talking about earlier is just, managing my own expectations of me and making sure that, that not that it's a buffer for my workforce, but that I am appropriately responding. Like my expectations are mine and on me, and that does not need to it needs to maybe buffer my group's stuff, but it shouldn't be something that aggravates me, I guess, or it becomes a thing of tension, I guess is a way to put it.
Okay.
I would like a good book recommendation for that would be The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard, which is there's like
I have it on my I got it. I just haven't listened to it yet. I have it on Audible.
It's a crazy quick read, but there's like one of the things that has forever stuck with me since I read it is just like there's like a little section in it and like a chart, I think, or like a square that has like different quadrants, and it's like we worked with a guy like at Methods. There's the old service manager who was like this, where he was like very tempered and like wouldn't do anything until he was like very upset, and then he'd blow up. And it was like the ebb and flow and like these swings and like in his like mood and how he responded that like also dictates like how your employees respond to you and everything. And like really, I mean, the ultimate like the like log line of that section is just like trying to be like as even as possible for the most part. Like, I mean, tuning what you're doing to like different people, because obviously you have to manage people differently, but like just being as even in good and in bad, like instead of like massive swings, just like keeping like the waves short. And he explains it better because he wrote the book, but it is a phenomenal read, and I would suggest it. It's quick. It's very quick. You probably knock it out in like a day.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Chris?
I'm just trying to like this whole swing into working like a madman again. I'm like, oh God, I need to chill out again. But it sucks because like, honestly, I'm a sicko and I'm a dang ass freak, and I kind of loved it. It was nice. Yeah. I was like, man, I'm crushing right now. This is so cool. So like after being like so like in a drought work wise, or like kind of just like piecemealing it to just like having like solid ass work, I immediately just like boom back to old habits and like just threw myself into it completely. Which was not the way to, like, it felt nice. I can't lie. Like, I mean, but it shouldn't feel nice. And I should probably try to not do that. 'Cause like, it was like I did some work and then I drove to California and I did that show. Then I drove back to Idaho and then I did some stuff for Kevin. Then I did some stuff for Jason. Then I did some stuff for myself. Then I drove to Arizona, and like, I haven't stopped in like 2 weeks. And that's like, it's the burnout. It like, if I need to chill. So the what am I doing for myself right now is nothing really. Just trying to like, just recognizing that it's there and trying and like starting to like tone it back and like, that's kind of where I'm at. So bad news bears, but baby steps, recognition, step one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mine's basically, or very similar to that, is like after a couple weeks of craziness, I really need to focus on scheduling realistically and getting that under control. Like I know I've been talking to Pete at Chatter because he just came out with that scheduler in Chatter.
So cool.
And so I want to check that out and see if that solves my problem, because right now, like, I'm just doing a very poor job. I'm looking at due dates and not how long a job is going to take.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got time. Like, there's days between those due dates. And then I look, and I'm like, yeah, those are work days that need to be worked on these parts. So,
and you think about like, well, I have the weekend and I have nights and I have this time. And it's like, you shouldn't think about all that time that way,
right?
Like these are all workable hours. Like I can do it whenever.
Well, that's the other part of it too. Like, yeah, you shouldn't definitely do that, but also you got to have something there too when things go bad, like your mom dies,
right? Some buffers,
you need some buffer time because then that's the other part of it too. It's not just doing the normal. Take some time for yourself. It's also like you might need some buffer time too.
Yeah. Well, and it's not scalable either. Like I can't, like we said earlier a million times, I can't expect other people to work these hours. So like if I grow my company on the foundation of me working 70 hours a week, I'm going to be doing that forever. Like that's
exactly
right.
So that's.
And you're gonna have a company with high, like as you get employees, you're gonna have probably pretty high turnover or psychopaths.
Right. Yeah. I don't know which one's worse.
Yeah.
All right. So the new last question, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase or what direction this is going in, but I wanted to introduce a third one. A, because I want to provide more value to the listeners, and B, because I want to end on like more of a high note or like a learned thing. Yeah. So right now I have it phrased as, what is a lesson from this week that's worth sharing? So problem you encounter that you overcame or something like that you want to pass along, probably more machining related or business related.
So me, thing that I did that I was happy with, it's a little thing, but it was a win that I liked, was basically working on the moderator core and the design of it to where I could print it without using any support material. And so changing the geometry of certain things to make it not have that. So like I have like these ports on the outside that go from inner chamber to an outer chamber, right? And they're just like circles basically. Well, a circle that is perpendicular to the build plate is a massive overhang when it comes to the top of the circle. So changing those shapes and just, turning them into like basically like rooftops, at a 44 degree angle, and then figuring out what the max angle I could do at, and just doing all that. It was, I don't know. It was a win that I was happy with. So anyways, if you're doing anything 3D printing or whatever, make sure you always put radius on everything. And, on everything, put a radius on everything.
It's like the exact opposite of machining. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the film, whatever your extruder size is, you want if you can in your design, make the fillet, 1 to 2 times whatever that is, at least. And that helps with the print quality and everything a ton. So yeah, just learn those things. And I love the bamboo. So yeah. There.
Awesome.
Nice.
Zap?
Okay. Mine is going to be, probably like what I've been thinking about this a lot, like, especially with like Jason's Turnkey 2 and other things and like all the stuff that I'm doing, is that, there's like, you can, at the level that we are at, I think that there's like a finite amount of planning you can do versus doing. Like, we don't have like a team of engineers like Lincoln or like Harley Davidson or whatever. And so, like, as a result, there's always going to be like an element of chaos to any project, and just kind of like being understanding that that's going to be there, and being able to like deal with that and like understand that, and like not trying like there's if you don't recognize that there is going to be a chaotic element, like making these, like for instance making these plates, and me driving 14 hours and finding that they didn't order their stuff. Like, what is that? You know, like, I could ask, I could do whatever, but like, it happened. And so like, what do you do? It's like, so push off the next customer a day.
Come hang out with me, apparently.
Yeah, come hang out with you and like see the Hermela dance, and then figure out like and like do as much prep work on the machine as possible, and then like get here and like get to LA, and we're trying to do like this bare bones thing, and like, so we're kind of using all the same tools that they have already, and whatever, and like getting to just being able to like get to done, kind of like by any means necessary, like, and back documenting stuff, like, I think is okay. And like, just like but the big thing is just like, there's not always going to be a chaotic element, but like chaos could come in, and just being like prepared for like, what is that? Expect the unexpected kind of thing. It's just always going to happen. So that's like, that's the one lesson that I've had, is like, I think I do okay with that, is just like I guess it's triage, like just breaking glass, and like, oh, this isn't working. All right, well, we're moving on to the next thing, and then I'll come back to that. And like, whatever, you know, there's always something to do. And like, if you get stuck, like, you can very easily end up just like being consumed by something. But if there's more, like, if it's not like a true dead in the water roadblock, a lot of the times it's just good. It's just best to like move the fuck on and go to the next thing, and then circle back. Like, oh, I can't do this. Well, I can't do X, but Y and Z are still in play. Then I can like order X if it's something I need to order, or like, I can design that later tonight, but Y and Z I can do right now, and like, whatever that looks like. I think a lot of people, like, it's a lot easier said than done. I think a lot of people struggle with that, because people like to like finish things, and it is good to finish things, but it's like, things are like, projects are a sum of their parts, you know, and it like X plus Y plus Z equals project. Like, whether X gets done or Y and Z get done, like, they all have to get done at some point. So like, you might as well like start checking things off and then circling back. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah. I think that's
good, yeah.
Like having that tenacity mindset of like, all right, there's a roadblock. Like, let's not just, hang our head in defeat. There's still stuff to be done. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I would say one lesson that I'm continuing to learn is tabbing parts off, even in a 3-axis with like a key seat cutter. Like, we've been prototyping a lot of tiny 316 parts lately. And I've found that they're small enough that there's no way to hold them in Op2. And so we've switched a lot of these over to doing as much as we can, like all of the complex stuff in Op1, tabbing it off with a key seat cutter, and then soft jaws. Like, I take the socket off my wrench and just put it on an extension and hand tighten it onto the part in Op2 and soft jaws. And like, that's enough to hold them usually, because I'm slitting them within 5 thou or something of the finished dimension. Wow. And so then I'm barely taking anything off, and they come out nearly perfect.
Hell yeah.
But it's something that I keep seeming to have to learn this lesson. I have to like remember to do that because I'll always be like, oh, I'll just do it, up to, and then I'll clamp it. And I had one this week that was small enough and I wasn't using my little hand method. And it wasn't until I was 3 or 4 parts deep in op 2 that I realized I had crushed the only bore that the customer cared about on these parts. They were like, oh, a pin goes in here. And I checked it and I was like, oh, it's perfect in op 1. Didn't even think about it in op 2. Didn't even think about the pressure or anything. And then I don't know. I think I saw some weird surface imperfection in the side of the part when I pulled it out in op 2. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I tried to fit my go pin in and it was nowhere near to go. I was like,
oh, I made an egg.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I guess another side lesson to that is that you hold parts with much more force in a vise than you think you do. Like your force is multiplied so much more than you think it is, and you can get away with way less than you think. And like, it takes a lot of thrown parts to figure out where that edge is, but like it's worth finding where it is.
Right.
Yeah. There was that reminds me of this guy. It was a Sandvik rep. Or no, it was Ingersoll. So we went, Ingersoll was trying to get they were doing, invited us out and, tour their factory and, sit through some, technical things on their tooling and whatever. And I went to this turning one. And so they had like a little shop in there and you go down there and whatever. And it was going over like how important it was to change out basically the maintenance of the tool holder, the seat and everything, and how important that stuff is. And then not over torquing what's holding the insert down if it has a clamp over top or whatever. And the guy was saying like, people don't realize like the way these things are designed, you don't even like, so what he did was to show off, he was cutting brass, but he was just holding the insert with his finger and cutting, and it wasn't moving. He's like, you don't need, to wrench down on this thing and whatever. And it just made me think of that. Like, you don't realize like how well these things are designed or what was taken in consideration and why that torque set is so damn small and why they give you that tool with that little torque thing is because that's all you need. You don't need freaking, so just kind of talking more about what you just said.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, because I see people do things like that very often where they're just like cranking on stuff and then they're like, oh, I don't know why my part's coming out of flat. I'm like, well, because you hit it with 100 foot-pounds in op 1. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Of course.
He's like, but I hit it afterwards with my dead blow, so it should be fine.
Yeah. It's flat.
Yeah. It's like, well, it was flat at 100 foot-pounds. Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Oh, boy. All right, guys. Well, thank you both so much. Awesome to get to catch up and talk some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dylan. It's been great. Yeah. I'm glad I got back on. I wish I was on more Zap, but not everybody can be Zap, I guess.
Well, we still have to do our book club.
Yeah.
I need to read.
I know. Yeah.
I was
you need to
just
send me your
listening
address
to
too.
something that recommended this book too. I can't remember what it was, but this book came up recently. Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah. It's a popular book in many different circles. It's the Audible's hard. It's a hard listen, I think. That's why I wanted to get your guys' address, or not Zap's, but your address, Dylan, because I bought the book because there's like graphs and stuff in the beginning that it's actually, I think you can definitely read or listen to a lot of it on Audible, but I think the first little bit, it's actually better to actually have the book. But
it sounds like another one that I have to buy the book because I know Zap and I and Alex are supposed to do the Toyota Kata, and I usually listen to them while I'm at work so I can get them done quick. And the reader for Toyota Kata is so dry. I have now tried, I think last count was 6 or 7 times, and I get through maybe a chapter and then realize it's been an hour and I haven't heard a single word that the guy's been saying. Like, cool. All right. So this is going to be a good episode. So yeah. I need to actually, I'll download the book and start reading it.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well,
guys.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the Patreon members who make the show possible. Thank you all for listening, and I will be back next week.